Are you ready? I bet this was live. That's okay. I don't know how to stop the video. Oh. Hi guys. I can't turn off this stinking video. I got it.
Okay. Hello.
Sorry. Oh my. We have an echo.
It's somewhere on your side.
I believe you. I think I fixed it.
We're trying to get this figured out for you guys. So give us a second. Somewhere on your side.
Yeah. Okay. Are we good? Did I fix it or not?
I think I fixed it. Nope. For you guys. So okay.
I apologize. Okay. Are we good? Did I fix it or not?
Are you playing it on one of yours, the live? Or
I apologize. Play the video again for a second, and I will fix it.
Are you playing? Okay, we're gonna play the video.
Shutting every window I have, and there we go.
Oh, it's just me. Hello, guys. I wasn't ready, but we're good. Okay, so yes, Olivia has 3 computers going on, trying to get it so that we can stream you guys the class. Okay. Okay. So I'm trying to.
Is the echo gone?
Yes, I think the echo's gone. Perfect. Okay.
Wonderful. I am so sorry.
That's the next question.
What was the question? I didn't hear you.
Yeah, they can all hear us. Okay. We're good.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. I'm so happy to see comments already coming in, telling us where you're joining. We're so excited to be here, you guys. It's Roots Tech, and I cannot tell you how excited I am this morning to be here with you guys, because watching the Roots Tech classes, I am aching to see everyone and aching to be with everyone. So I'm hoping we can create this great, fun connection opportunity together.
This should be fun.
Yeah.
I love this comment. Hold on, Olivia. I love this comment from Connie Wright. Well, we know it's live. Yes, we are live.
It's true. It's so true.
Pre-recorded.
Nope, we've got you. Yes, and we are so excited because we have got special guests coming on at 1:30 after we watch all the series together. This Power of Connection series has been like our baby for the last several months. We put our blood, sweat, and tears into putting this together for you and for the whole Roots Tech community. And so we're so excited that you've decided to join us to watch it. And we hope we don't have any more technical errors. We'll see. But
yes, thank you for being patient with us. Thank you.
Yes. I love it. And we've got people from Alaska. We've got Christine from Fairbanks, Alaska, and
awesome.
Utah and San Diego. And I love that. I love seeing Tennessee. Welcome from Kentucky. That's awesome. I don't know that I remember seeing a Tennessee person before. So that's exciting. And
welcome.
Oh, and Justin is here. Hello, Justin. Good to see you. We love our participants, so it's really exciting. Yes. Be sure to tell your friends and family.
Jordan, awesome.
Yes. Okay, so first of all, before we get started, I just want to see if anyone has any questions about the Power of Connection series. We'll give you a little background on it, and basically that is, it was inspired by experiences from participants and volunteers on this project. We knew and we've discovered that there is some serious power to connecting with our family, and so we wanted to share that with the world. So after you watch it today, if you're inspired, we invite you to go in and invite your friends and family to come and watch it and help them just consider the fact that there might be more to connecting with family than just feeling good, but that there's like a lot to it. We're going to explore the science of it. We're going to explore things from people like you and me who've had personal experiences. It's going to be so much fun. I love this series. It's got my heart and soul in it. So I hope you enjoy it. Are there any questions before we get rolling?
Well, Olivia, you are Connie's 7th cousin once removed. That is so cool.
Which line? Tell me which line.
Yes, let's hear.
It's always fun to
Yeah,
see which.
make sure that you do put any questions you have, especially during the classes, in the comments so that we can ask them in the live Q&A. Please, 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 any question you have, pop it in there and we'll be sure to ask it.
Yes, and note, we have some really fun things coming for you. We decided to make it more than just a watch party. So we've got some fun facts we're going to bring in. We're going to ask some questions of you guys. So we want you to engage with us, talk with us. Let's make this fun and connect as if we were at Roots Tech. And next year at actual Roots Tech, we will have a real party.
Exactly.
So, all right. The live Q&A is at 1:30. I don't know who typed that. So
yeah, I must have typed it in wrong. So I will definitely fix that. It's at 1:30.
No problem. 1:30 Mountain Standard Time. So all of you around the globe, use that world clock, buddy. We'll put a link to that in here because that is so helpful.
Good call.
Our favorite tool we found. Joseph Taylor. Okay, Connie, I'm going to look it up while the class is going. So, all right, should we try this since we may have a technical error before?
Yeah, let's get it started.
Let's give it a try. So we're going to add this to the stream and then I won't start it. So I just wanted to show you really fast. When you get to the Roots Tech page, the way you're going to find all of our series of classes is go to the Guide Me at the top right here. And then you're going to scroll down to Connecting with Living Family. Once you get on this series, we are the 4th series within this series. So you just grab it and scroll down all the way to the bottom. I told them we need to have a quick link, but it's okay. We can scroll. And then you just come here, the Power of Connection series. You're going to click View Session, and I invite all of you to make sure you go to our classes on Roots Tech and like them so they know to invite us back for next year. All right. Who's ready for this?
I am. I'm excited. I haven't watched these yet, so I'm getting to watch them first time with you guys. Yay.
All right. We'll see you all soon as this one's over. Be sure and put questions in the comments and we'll chat some more soon.
Yeah.
Is the audio working? Okay, I am thinking the audio is not working, so we're going to try this one instead. I have another window open. So we will do, hold on, just need to tweak to get audio working. Yes, hold on one second. I'm going to crash that and do my share screen on this computer. Sorry about that, you guys. I don't know why the audio is not working. It worked when we tested it last night. Share screen and share audio. And we'll just go like
Don't worry,
this.
we worked in some time just in case this happened. We just have to get this class started by 11:15. So no worries. Don't worry about it.
Yes, we have plenty of time to watch them all. Okay. Connecting with living.
While you pull that up, I'm going to put up the first question we're going to ask you guys so you guys can be thinking. But we want to know what your connection story is.
Okay.
Okay.
Tell me if the audio doesn't work now. It should. Welcome to the Power of Connection series. I'm your host, Olivia Jewell, founder of the 21-Day Family Connections Experiment, an experiment started during the height of the 2020 pandemic, and it was created to explore the psychological benefits of connecting more with family past and present. As part of that, we've had a lot of incredible experiences learning more about connection, and we wanted to bring this series to you to share some of what we've learned. So, as we kick off the Power of Connection series, join us as we hear from regular people like me and you who have had a little bit of personal experience with this. So Mia, Coralie, Michael, Lisa, and Sarah are going to share with us some of the power and strength and healing that they have personally experienced through connection.
I got into family history work because of the healing that I experienced as I learned more about my ancestors. So a few years back, I was diagnosed with severe depression and anxiety. And When you struggle with mental illness, it is debilitating, and it can really, it rocked my world. It changed everything about me. And I was going to therapy. I was doing things to take care of myself, like exercising, eating well. But what really helped me, along with those things, what really helped me to move forward with my life and also just develop more confidence in myself and find a lot more joy in my journey was participating in family history work. The more I learned about my ancestors, the more I saw that I really was not alone in my journey, and that there have been many that have come before me that have had similar journeys and similar experiences. So I really am not alone. And I discovered that a lot, even more so now, especially now that I'm a genealogist, and I feel more hope and more joy and definitely more healing in my life when I learn more about the resiliency, the power, the struggles, the trials, the tribulations of my ancestors. And I see through their lives and through my own that I can do that anything is possible, and that no matter how broken or distraught my mind and my heart may be, or even my body, that everything's going to be okay, that I will make it in the end, and I really am not alone.
I always knew the name of my birth father, but I was never really interested in finding him. I didn't want to upset his family, and I had a really good stepfather, and I never felt a lack. But when DNA started being a thing, my family kept telling me, Mom, you need to get your medical history. And I thought about it for a while and decided, I guess it would be okay. I had no idea that I would get a hit or two on the DNA results for a missing relative, someone I never knew. And with the help of my granddaughter, I was able to follow up on a message that was put on Ancestry from somebody named Connie. And she knew nothing about her background, only that she and I, for some reason, were considered to have very compatible DNA. So with the help of my granddaughter, I was able to get in contact. It turns out that I connected with her on one of the worst days of her life. And while it was wonderful for me to talk to her, it was more wonderful for her to talk to me. And we had an instant bond. Now, we were able to meet after a few months, and we don't look a thing alike, but we are very alike. We have the same personality, we have the same looks. As my granddaughter said, we even chose the same color car. Connie has been a delight, a joy. I had no idea that I needed to fill this gap in my background. I had no idea how delightful and wonderful it would be to find a sister. She's only 18 months younger than I am. And so we're from the same generation, and we just get along great. We email, we talk all the time, and never run out of things to say. And the most delightful part is that not only do I get Connie, but I get her family. And I absolutely adore her sweet family. And she has a granddaughter who could be my clone. So it's been a wonderful experience for me. It's filled a hole I didn't know I had. And it has brought both Connie and I great joy. And it was not expected, but wonderful to have happen.
About a year ago, in the middle of taking around 30 credits at school, I had the inspiration to do a New Year's resolution unlike anything I've done before. And that was simply to do family history every day. It was in the middle of doing a lot at school. I had an extracurricular, I had family duties and other community service opportunities as well going on. But I decided to try to do just a little bit every day. And about a year later, I can say that I haven't done it perfectly every day, but as I do it several times a week, I've noticed that making those family connections, doing a little bit of family tree cleanup, or uploading a memory, or remembering one of my ancestors, or connecting with one of my living relatives has really helped me find strength to get through school. It's given me strength to keep going amidst the pandemic, to find joy with everything that I have going on in my life. It doesn't necessarily make sense that when our plates are already full to add something more. But in my case, I found that actually it's brought life in balance. And I've seen some neat things come of it. I started my Instagram a few months later after thinking about how that process of doing it every day has changed me. I wanted to share my journey and experiences and insight with others. And recently I've had thoughts of how I can incorporate family history into my future medical practice. Something I'm super excited about and I'm still figuring out, but it still has shaped the way that I view the world and the future that I hope to have, and everything else. I know there's power in connecting. As we reach out to connect with our ancestors, our living relatives, and we really are connecting with ourselves, and that's really what's most important.
I've been asked to share a story about connecting with family members. And I'd like to just give you a little background because this story takes place over nearly 50 years. 1972, I was able to go and visit my grandfather's family in Mexico City. He had immigrated to the United States in the early 1920s, raised his family in New Orleans, which is where I was born. And so my mom and my family and I went down to visit them. And it was really neat because I finally got to see the country that I believe that my personal story started in. I got to meet the family that I belonged to. And it was quite a large family. And I just had a really great time. And it stirred in me even more of a desire to seek out my story. And I've always been a believer in story and the power of storytelling and story sharing. So decades passed from that. 2016, I'm sitting in an event similar to RootsTech, a smaller size, and I learned that Mexican records have been digitized and uploaded and are being indexed for use for anyone to go and research. It was like an answer to prayer. Decades I've been waiting to try to put together the pieces that I barely got any of during my growing up years, and just that one visit to meet all of the family in 1972. Even though I'd had shorter trips before, I never could find a family member that could fill in the details of our great-grandparents and beyond. So I start to fill in this tree, and I'm starting to say, yes, I'm finally getting the story fulfilled. This is great. Things are starting to make sense, and I'm finding all these wonderful events in these people's lives. And then 4 years later after that, after I begin searching online, this year of the pandemic, when connection is not happening a lot, I post a picture of my mom's face on a beautiful picture of her on Facebook for her birthday in July. And my cousin from my 1972 trip named Norma hits like and says, hey, let's get together and chat. This is another miracle, right? Out of all the years behind us that have gone past, the decades, my hunting and pecking and searching for our story. And I'm so excited. I can't wait to tell her. So we figure out WhatsApp, we get on a call, I see her mother, and they are both just thrilled to know that I have been looking for the records of that line of our family. And it turns out, on top of that Norma has been collecting a book in which she has been trying to fill in names and dates. And she's been working on this just as painstakingly as I have. And so we get together and we start talking about this, and there are tears of joy, and this bond becomes stronger between us in spite of the decades that we haven't seen each other, in spite of the language deficit. And it just brought so much joy to my life. And I just really think that stories connect us to each other, and they connect us to our past. They tell us who we are. What I'd like to leave with you, what I've learned from this experience, is that it is so important to keep records. We think someone might know information, but then they don't. And there's so much richness in our family stories. It's so important for us to know through our own stories who we are, and we'll find that as we do our family history. So keep a record of who you are for the next generation to find.
A few years ago, I was at this point in my life when I was feeling very depressed and anxious, and a lot of darkness, and just out of control of my own emotions and out of control of my own thoughts. And I didn't feel like myself. And it took me a while to realize that what I was feeling was not going to go away without help. So I sought help from a therapist, and I was quickly diagnosed with complex PTSD. And being diagnosed was very eye-opening and empowering in the way that it gave me this reason and this answer to why I was feeling the way I was feeling. And it brought a lot of hope that I wouldn't have to feel that way forever, and that there were things that could be done to get me out of this dark place that I was in. But with that hope came a lot of shame as well, and realizing all the damage that trauma had done to me left me feeling very broken and very alone. And I didn't feel like I had anybody that I could turn to who could really understand just what I had been through and the losses that I had faced. And I just felt like nobody understood where I was at. But I am a big learner, and so I kind of dove in headfirst in learning about shame and trauma and the effects that it can have on you and how to become resilient to those things. I also, around the same time, just gained a lot of interest in learning about the stories of my family. And at first I thought the two were unrelated, just two separate things that I was enjoying at the time. But as I was researching my ancestors and their stories, it became pretty clear these patterns I was seeing. I read stories about loss and deep poverty and war and addiction and abuse. And I started piecing together the reality that I am not the first person in my history, in my family, to have suffered from trauma, and that I have a whole generations before me that have felt the same brokenness and heartache and loss and loneliness that I was feeling then. And while my heart broke for them, and it still breaks for them because of the things that they had to face, I knew that I wasn't alone in what I was feeling. And as I've continued my own journey of healing, I have felt them with me many times. And I've also felt distinct impressions that my own knowledge and my own growth and my own healing is healing them as well. And it's been such a gift to not only know that I'm not alone, but to know that I can give back to them through my own healing and my own growth. And I know these trials and this trauma is not unique to my family. I think every family, whether it's this generation that we're living now or the previous generation or many generations back, there's trauma evident, and there's loss, and there's shame, and there's struggle. And I truly believe that as we learn about our ancestors and we hold space for their feelings and their losses and their trauma, that we can provide a place for them to process and heal from their own pain and grief. And that we can find support and connection through our own trials and bring about our own healing. And it, like I said, it's been such a gift to me, and I know that it's a gift that's available to anybody who needs it.
There we go. trying to get that to come down is fun. We'll go.
Olivia, those stories were awesome. They were so good. I really enjoyed them.
Yeah, no, so Michelle helped us put that one together. She kind of interviewed everyone. And so the first time I got to watch them was when they were clipped together. And I was like, wow, that was powerful. I just feel like the personal experiences of people who are like me and you are so much more powerful than having, somebody with a necessarily, I don't know, somebody who's like a great presenter or a great, motivational speaker. I think it's more important to hear the people who are just like us, who've had those experiences and have had those opportunities to, to
Agreed.
really experience that power. And I loved, Camille, I saw that you said in there that you've felt that you've had those experiences.
Yeah.
Will you share a little bit? Like, are you comfortable? If you're not, it's okay.
Yeah, I can. So when Sarah was talking about being in a dark place and not feeling like herself, I've been there and I have felt that, especially after I've had my babies. And it's something that a lot of people don't really talk about. And so I never really realized it. In fact, here's one of my babies going to poke her head in. Anyway, it was actually a story that I read of my great grandma, her life story, and it made me realize that what I was feeling was not right. It was something that I shouldn't be feeling. And so I actually went and got some help and was diagnosed with anxiety and depression. And it just made me, like Sarah said, I wasn't alone. I wasn't the first one. And I think Lisa Levitt said in the comments, we're not alone. And I love that. It's so true. We're not alone. And we are not the first ones. That is for sure. There's been other people who have also felt these things. And I think that that's where the connection is so powerful, is that we're not alone. Because I feel like, especially as women and men who have depression and anxiety, that we feel that way. We feel like we're the only ones having these feelings. We're the only ones doing these things, and we're not the only ones.
Yeah.
We're here for you. Your ancestors are here for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. While we were doing it, I loved watching the comments come in and seeing. So who was it? Connie said her mom lives with her now. She loves talking with her about her life. Am I right? Was Connie?
Connie's your cousin. She's the one in Alaska.
Was Connie Coralie's? Is she related to Coralie? No. Okay. No. Okay. That was just a separate story. Michelle's Michelle's going like this. No, you're confused. But when I read it, I was like, oh, that's cool. But this is super cool. Like, I love that. And it's true. Like, I think sharing stories is super powerful. And we're going to explore that a little bit later in this series, actually, when we get to Sydney Walker's. But, I wanted to ask, did any of those questions, like, answer in the comments? We'd love to hear from you. Did any of those stories that those people resonate with you and help you tap into something that maybe you've experienced that you hadn't considered? Like, oh, you know what? Family history has helped me in that way. What, like, did it kind of tap into something? Because I'll admit, like, as Camille's talking about her personal experiences, you guys have heard me probably talk about it before, but in sincerity, like, until I had cancer and experienced the depression that came with the limitations I had during that time, I didn't really understand depression. And so now sometimes I say to my husband, like, well, I'm feeling depressed, but before cancer, I wouldn't have known that's what it was. Like, I just,
right? Yeah.
And so I think there's something powerful about identifying what those feelings are, recognizing that other people feel them, and recognizing that our families probably have experienced them and that they've gotten through it, seeing that other people are getting through it. And so I love that. And that's really what we're just kind of exploring, is how we can tap into those resources we have in our own families, in our own, within the realm. And especially during pandemic, where we are a little more limited, some places
Yes.
more than others.
Yes.
How can we tap into connections with our family, even if it's on a computer? How can we tap into that to help us kind of overcome some of those things? So anyway, I just love, I don't know. I just love what we're exploring. So I'm seeing if anyone made any comments that we want to make sure. Yeah, Katie said they make us stronger. We know we can do it if they did. And I love that. That's absolutely
That's
true.
awesome. Yes.
And Lisa said she contacted Sarah after she shared her story, and she helped her reach out to her daughter about sharing a story she had for our future ancestors. I love that, Lisa, so much. I love that so much.
Yes. Oh,
Oh,
look at this
yeah,
new
go ahead.
one from Maria. Got it. There we go. Also knowing that they overcame the obstacles gives me hope that I too can overcome whatever comes my way. It's so true. Like, you feel like no one can overcome this. I can't get over this, and yet they did, and I can too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, when you're in that dark moment, like sometimes it feels like, and I think just knowing it won't last forever. And that,
Yes.
and so I love that. I love that. Okay. One more, and then we're going to start the next one because we don't want to get too close on our time here. We want to have our buffers. Okay. Michelle said, I think that was a huge point for me when she was talking about Sarah's, about how we can learn to help our ancestors heal, because sometimes when we hear hard stories and are re-experiencing them, we feel so helpless on ways to help. Yes. When Sarah said that, it struck me. It had never occurred to me, but almost like her healing was helping them to heal. And I loved that. When I was going through the videos and making the trailers, I was like highlighting that. I'm like, I hadn't caught it the first time, but I love that because it's true. I know we aren't talking about forgiveness necessarily, but it is part of the whole thing. And I know there's times when I've discovered hard things from my family that I get in there and I'm like mad at them. Like, why would you do that? And I'm upset. And I have to work through a forgiveness process to forgive them and still love them. And as I've done that, I feel like there's this healing that takes place between both of us. And maybe that requires a belief in another side, which I personally have. But even so, I think there's just so much power, whether you have that belief or not. In forgiveness and healing and recognizing that forgiveness has power too. And so anyway, I love that.
I love that. Yes.
Yes. Okay. One last one. Corlene's story makes me want to reach out to more cousins. And I totally agree. Cause I love how I didn't know anything was missing, but now I'm so much
wondering.
better. Yes.
Right. Yeah. You're like, okay, what's missing? What is going on? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and hearing those personal stories from my cousins on how my ancestors, our shared ancestors, have changed them, that's powerful too.
Yes, agreed. All right, should we do this, ladies and gentlemen?
Let's do the next class. What's the next class, Olivia?
Right. Go ahead and pop it on the screen. It is Necessity of Connection for Your Physical Health. And this is by Julianne Holt-Lunstad. And we love her. She is such an incredible person. Make sure you go and hit the like button for us, guys. Ooh, it just popped up. Good job. Make sure you go and hit the like button, and she'll be with us at 1:30 to do a live Q&A. So be sure and stay tuned for that.
Yeah, and make sure if you have any questions, pop them in the comments and we'll get them answered for you in the Q&A. So please put any question you have in that Q&A box.
Great point. Great point. Thank you, Camille. All right, I'm going to hit play. We are so excited to be joined today by Julianne Holt-Lunstad. She is an incredible person with some incredible research that I'm really excited that you're going to get to hear about today. I want to give you a little background about Julianne before we get started. So she's a professor of psychology and neuroscience at Brigham Young University, the founding chair of the Scientific Advisory Committee for the Coalition to End Social Isolation and Loneliness. So you can see why she's a perfect fit for our Power of Connections track here. Dr. Holt-Lunstad, her research is focused on understanding the long-term health effects, biological mechanisms, and effective strategies to mitigate risk and promote protection associated with social connection. Her work has been seminal in the recognition of social isolation and loneliness as risk factors for early mortality. She serves as a scientific advisor and consults regularly for organizations across sectors aimed at addressing this issue. She has provided expert testimony in a U.S. congressional hearing, expert recommendations for the U.S. Surgeon General's Emotional Wellbeing in America initiative, and served as a member of the UK Cross-Departmental Loneliness Team and a member of a National Academy of Sciences Consensus Committee. That's a lot to be over. It sounds like you're a busy woman. We are so privileged to have you here with us today. Thank you for joining us and welcome.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure.
Well, so I have my first question is I would love to just hear your story. What got you into this research topic? What brought you there? And why are you so passionate about it?
Yeah. So early in my career, much of my research was really just focused on looking at the physiological effects of stress on health and how our relationships might play a role in that. So, for instance, relationships helping us cope with stress and buffering some of those negative health effects of stress, but also being sources of stress. And so initially, you know, my work was really tied to this and looking at some of these biological mechanisms. However, it became abundantly clear that outside academia, that when I would talk to people at social gatherings, right, whether it, you know, was friends, family, my husband's coworkers, that really outside of academia, that most people didn't recognize that our relationships had an impact on our physical health. And so most people recognize that it impacts our emotional well-being.
Right.
But it was just simply not well recognized as important for our health, and so that really, you know, led to some of the work that I did, you know, down the road, looking at risk for mortality, and then some of the work that ended up now looking at the effects on public health.
See, and I'm with everyone else. I didn't know either. I had never even considered it. And I remember when I first started reading about your research, I was like, wait, physical, mental health, they think it just makes so much sense, but physical? So help us understand, what are those health risks? What is it that we could potentially experience if we are isolated or missing connection in our lives?
Right. So, you know, of course, we found in laboratory studies that it impacts physiological responses like blood pressure and heart rate and stress hormones and even immune functioning. You know, I think people want to know, well, okay, but what does it have? Like, how does that affect our health long term, right? You know, so our heart rate or blood pressure, you know, jumps a little bit here or there. But there's evidence that shows that it's associated with heart disease, cancer, diabetes, stroke. But where this, you know, because of the lack of awareness around this, my colleagues and I really wanted to look at how it impacts our overall longevity and risk for disease-related mortality, death from diseases. And so we gathered evidence worldwide where any study that had been published that had followed people, had measured, you know, their degree of social connection, and then followed them over time to see how well this predicted whether or not they, you know, whether or not they were alive or not, but how long they lived. And so we had data from 148 studies in our first meta-analysis, and what we found was that those who were more socially connected had a 50% increase odds of survival.
50%. That is not a small number. Wow. Okay. Sorry.
No. And so then we followed that up because, of course, people want to know, well, okay, so what about, you know, the risk associated with having, you know, social deficits? So social isolation, loneliness, living alone. And so we did another one looking at global evidence worldwide. This time we had data from over 3.4 million participants. So a lot of people. And what we found was that loneliness was associated with a 26% increased risk of earlier death, social isolation, 29%, and living alone by 32%. So basically what this, combined, what these data suggest is that being socially connected is protective, and quite a powerful protective factor for our health and longevity, and lacking social connections, so being lonely, being socially isolated, that these are significant risk factors for early mortality. And so I have this figure that illustrates or benchmarks just how important this is in terms of how seriously we should take this for our health. And so in this first figure, we can see various factors that, of course, we all recognize as being important for risk for mortality, things like smoking and smoking cessation, alcohol consumption, physical inactivity, obesity, air pollution. These are all factors that influence our risk for earlier death to varying degrees. And so you can see on these blue bars that they vary to some have a stronger effect than others.
Right.
And so what we did was then we looked at the varying ways in which we can be socially connected and how it's been measured in the research. And we benchmarked it relative to these other factors that we all take quite seriously. And so you can see in this next figure that these social factors in the orange bars are right on par and comparable with these other factors that we take very seriously for our health. And so one of the comparisons that is often cited is the smoking up to 15 cigarettes per day. And so you can see that of course we have to inverse, so lacking social connection would be comparable to smoking up to 15 cigarettes per day. And
that really is crazy when you look at that number and see how close that is. I agree. That's crazy. No wonder people point that one out a lot, because it is. I would never smoke a cigarette, but I wouldn't think it would have the same effect if I was isolated. It just, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, wow.
Well, that's why we benchmark this evidence, because most people don't recognize that it's even important at all for their health, but secondly, just how that we do take very seriously, it really kind of puts it on par with these things. And of course, this isn't to say that these other things aren't important. Of course, every single one of these are important for us to take seriously for our health. But really what this suggests is that we really need to take our relationships just as seriously.
I love that. Well, and I love that you said it's a protection. When you said that, I was like, wow, that's powerful. When you think of it as a protection, your social connections and your, what I would push with family connections, obviously, can be a protection to you. And I think, we don't think about it that way, but I think that's a powerful point that you made there. So help me understand one thing. What does it look like to connect? Like, how do we counter that? If we realize we're kind of in isolation, what are the counters to the isolation? How do we connect?
Right. And so, just like what the research shows is that there are, varying ways of measuring our social connections. What was interesting is that these all have an effect on our health. And what that also suggests is that these are varying ways in which we can connect to others. And so really broadly speaking, what our evidence shows is three broad categories. The first is the structural aspects of our relationships. And this really gets at the existence of having people in our lives. So, in the research, of course, it's measured as, the size of your social network or how frequently you have social contact with people. But really what that comes down to is having regular contact with people, having people in your life, having people around you, right?
Yeah.
And that the presence of others can be incredibly important. And if you want to, we can probably come back to why each of these are important. Yeah. Maybe first talk about why, each one of these components. But the second aspect that the evidence has shown is that, it's more than, of course, just having people in our lives, but also there's the functions that our relationships serve. And so really having people in your life that you can rely upon. So either the resources that are provided or perceived to be available, but really just in essence having people you can count on.
Okay.
And then the last category is quality, the quality of our relationships. And we know that not all relationships are positive.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. Not all family relationships.
Of course, relationships can include conflict and strain, but also can bring joy and satisfaction. And so really it's the positive qualities that are protective, and unfortunately the negative aspects of relationships can potentially put people at risk. And so in terms of what people should be doing, it's having people in their lives, particularly people that you can count on and trust, and that are meaningful and satisfying positive relationships.
I love that. My two questions here are, do you have anything that you'd want to wrap up with this, and then tell us where we can find out more? Because I know I could talk to you all day long. And in the interest of time, we won't go all day, but maybe if you could just point us where we could learn more from you.
So, one closing thing is that, of course, the importance of our relationships applies to everyone. And so I think another misconception is that it's really only concerning for those who may be severely isolated or lonely. But really, these effects are on a continuum, and we're all somewhere on that continuum, and we can all benefit from this. And in terms of where people can find additional information, I served on that National Academy of Science Expert Consensus Committee report on social isolation and loneliness, and this reviews the state of the evidence, and it is freely available to the public, and anyone who's interested can follow the link to that full report.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I am so excited. I hope I get to pick your brain some more sometime. And all of you people watching. So thank you for sharing that with us. For all of you watching at home, go and learn more. Julianne has so much to offer us, and we're so grateful for her taking the time to share this with us. Continue to connect with us on the Power of Connection series. You can learn from Amy Nelson next about the effects of social isolation and the lack of connection more on your mental health. That's her focus. And then you can learn more about stories and other things on this track. So definitely go check out those classes. And thank you again, Julianne, for joining us.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, you're muted. Hold on. Maybe I can unmute you.
Sorry.
Oh, there you are.
Ooh, we have lots of chats. Good. And guess
Yeah.
what I did while we were gone, you guys? I know you're going to be really excited about this. I got a good banner.
I was wondering what you were doing while we were watching.
Yeah, that was what I was doing.
We've got some questions coming in.
Awesome.
So that's good. Okay, we did want to ask you guys a question. while this was going on. Let me find our first one. Okay, it was, there we go. Have you ever felt or thought about the effects? Have you ever thought about the effects that loneliness and isolation may have on your physical health? Honestly, I had never thought about this before. I mean, other than like feeling down and sad, I never thought about loneliness affecting my physical health. Like, never thought of that. So yeah, that was totally new to me. That was really cool to hear. And those stats were crazy. Like the smoking cigarettes being almost this, that blew my mind.
Me too. And obesity. Like, I feel like we're all so conscientious of, not smoking a cigarette because it's bad for our health, and not overeating because it's bad for our health. But what I actually loved was when I noticed Lisa said it, and I'm trying to find it, but I can't find it. But she said, this tells me I need to call my mom more. That's what she said. Yes. And when I read that, I was like, that's exactly right. Like, all of a sudden, when I did that interview with Julianne, all I could think was, I need to think of all the people in my life who could be struggling from isolation and loneliness right now, who could be suffering some of these same things. And so, so basically it's crazy how much of an effect it really does have. I think it's important that we do that. Yeah.
Okay. I have to say, Connie, yes. Look at this. She says, I am a very social butterfly, and not being with people is very depressing. Yeah, me too.
I think that's why this project was created, because all of us needed something more than what we were getting in isolation, right?
Yes. Oh, and I've loved connecting with people. Yes. Oh, Christine says she hadn't either. Mental and emotional, yes. Not physical health, but now it totally makes sense. I totally agree. It totally makes sense.
It does. And there was a question about, what was it? She asked a question, and I was like, that's one we should save for the Q&A for sure. Yes, she said,
she just asked, does research differentiate between physical interaction versus virtual interaction at all? I love that question, because that's something that I am now thinking about, especially now that you brought that up, is that I interact with Olivia all the time on Zoom.
All day, every day.
Or do I need to physically be interacting with someone to counteract these times that I'm alone and lonely? Yeah, that is a great question.
And I think it's interesting because Amy kind of touches on that in one of our mental health nuggets. I know she kind of mentioned it, and I'm actually going to throw up a graphic to just advertise our mental health nuggets when we talk about this for a second, because Amy's doing Feeling Connected Mental Health Nuggets once a month. It's the second Wednesday of every month at 11, and she does a live Q&A, which is so cool. But I know Michelle and I kind of touched on that with her during one of those sessions. I can't remember which one. And sorry, I didn't realize you were looking down, or I wouldn't have taken it down.
You're good.
But basically, she kind of touches on it's different levels of what is provided, but I'm excited to ask that question. We need someone write that down. Michelle, will you write that question down so we be sure and ask it later? That would be great. All right.
Okay. I love that Lisa just said, let me start with her first quote or comment. So she says, I'm a social butterfly also. Yay for social butterflies. What I've done to feel better during this pandemic is drop notes and goodies off to others. I feel impressed too. I send notes, texts, and made calls. It makes me feel better in the process. I love that, because it connects you, because they know that you've been thinking about them. That's awesome. Good job.
Yeah. No, I agree.
We all need a Lisa in our life.
We do. Well, and a Connie, because Connie reminds her family to do a 5-minute, she said just a 5-minute phone call. And I think that's huge. I need a reminder on my phone, since I don't have a Connie in my life.
Yes. Let's all go in right now and make in right now.
And make reminders.
To call someone.
Yes,
I think that's a great idea.
Once you do it, go ahead and throw it in the comments. Say, I did it, and I will do it too during this next one. Because we're going to want to start the next one so that we stay on track. Because Camilla and I could talk all day long.
Yes, we could. And I just want to give you guys a heads up. I do have to go get my kids from the bus stop, and I don't know how late the bus might be. So Olivia might be doing it on her own, or maybe she'll grab Michelle and throw Michelle in
Sorry about that.
if I'm not back in time. But I will hurry back as soon as I can.
Yes. All right. So now
Make
we're
sure
going
you're throwing your questions in. Sorry, I totally talked over you.
No,
Make sure
you're
you're
totally
throwing your
good.
questions in. We're writing them down. We're going to ask them in the Q&A and get them answered for us.
Yes, absolutely. We're going to explore the necessity of connection for your mental health with Amy Nilsson now. And it is really, this is a great one. You guys are going to just buckle up. It's great. Ready? All right. Are you guys showing it? Don't forget to go here and hit like. Oh dear, it went down when I hit
There we go. Yeah, that was a question, as everyone's been asking where the like button is. So if you go to rootstech.com and then you go and you find these, .org, sorry, thank you. And you go and find these sessions underneath the video where Olivia's mouse is right now. There's that little thumbs up, and then right now there's a little 3 next to it. So I know 20 of you guys are watching right now. I want to see that number go up at least 20. So go like that video.
Okay, are we ready?
Yes.
All right, here we go. We are joined now by Amy Nilsson, who is a mental health therapist that is going to open and broaden our horizons today about family connections and how it affects our mental health rather than our physical health, like we just learned about. Amy is a clinical mental health counselor with over 12 years of experience. She has helped people with several different backgrounds of mental health disorders and issues, and she's been serving as a therapist for several years and a social worker before that. She's helped people in a variety of ways. She educates and provides guidance on how to improve just an overall quality of life. First and foremost, though, she is a wife, a mother of 5, and a grandmother of 3. So we are super, super lucky to have her here, and we're going to just pick her brain today. So tell us a little bit, Amy, as we welcome you. Tell us a little bit about why you felt good about coming and joining us at Roots Tech, a genealogy conference. Draw that connection for us.
Okay. Well, I'm super excited to get to come into Roots Tech because everything that I feel like Roots Tech stands for and is doing is bringing connections both with ourselves today and, of course, with our ancestors. And in my work as a therapist, every day I'm working with people, helping them find ways to heal and increase their sense of satisfaction and well-being in their lives. And a lot of people don't realize how powerful connection is to naturally increase those senses of well-being within us.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I love that. So are you going to help us explore what connection is and why it has such a powerful effect?
Absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely. But to get us started there, to help it make some sense, we're going to start with some basics about kind of how our body works and how emotions work. Okay. So every single one of us has emotions, right? And each of those emotions serves a function in our body. And that's what a lot of people don't realize, is that the emotions that we have are intended on helping us through the sensations they create to meet needs that we have. Okay. So we might have, we have people come in for counseling all the time that they feel like maybe their emotions have gotten out of control in some capacity, right? And it's usually the uncomfortable ones. People don't come to counseling for their, I'm so happy, I can't control it.
Right.
Right. So what people are coming in, that they're struggling with depression or sadness, anxiety and loneliness. And then we're going to work with that person to help them identify, okay, what are the emotions that are running right now? What needs are not getting met that your body's talking to you about? And then we're going to explore with them ways to help meet those needs. Okay. So these emotions that are happening in our body, they come to us that we experience them through sensations of our body, right? So like when we're fearful, we might tighten and clench. When we're excited, we're open and we're up. Okay. So these are all like sensations and shifts that happen in our body, right? And those sensations, as we become familiar with them, can guide us to what the need is. Now, those sensations, they're not like this magical thing that just like randomly, happens. We got sprinkled with pixie dust and woo, we had emotion, right?
Right.
Like, I mean, it is kind of like our body is pretty magical. It's pretty amazing.
I love
but
that.
those sensations are coming from the flow of various chemicals through our body that is shifting and moving our body. Okay. And today, for the sake of this, this presentation, what I want to teach you about is the body chemical oxytocin. Well, oxytocin is responsible for a lot of positive feelings.
Yeah.
Right? It's responsible for bonding, and it is responsible, like bonding is connection, right? And that's what we're talking about today.
Okay. So correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like I've heard a lot of times that's the chemical that we feel as mothers when we're holding our baby or nursing. And is that the correct chemical that we're talking about here? Okay.
That's exactly it, right? Okay. So mom is feeding baby. Baby's body's flooded with oxytocin. Mom and baby are looking face to face. Baby's needs getting met. That oxytocin floods. Well-being feelings come up in both. Okay. And take that example really quick. And if mom wasn't getting that positive feel-good feeling, how's she going to survive that night after night of not sleeping, the TV, the tantrums, right? So she needs that feel-good flood of chemicals to help her cope then with the hard stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes perfect sense. Like, because when you go through that, you don't know how you did it when you look back. And that's why it's the drugs. It's the natural drugs.
And so the cool things that we're going to be talking about a little bit with this today is how we can on purpose trigger these well-being chemicals to come up and to come forward for us so that we are better able to cope with these challenges in our life. And we know that right now, especially in this last year, so many challenges and pressures and differences have come up for people. And so I think this is so exciting to get to take this opportunity at Roots Tech to say, hey, look, this thing that you're doing, this connection thing that you're doing, it's like taking a natural antidepressant.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I have to not backtrack, but just point out, I loved that you said on purpose. Just, it's that being intentional, right? It's making intentional on purpose oxytocin, creating that. I love that. Thank you. That's like, I'm going to use that as a slogan.
Yeah, seriously. Right. Yes, we can do this on purpose.
Yes, I love that.
So oxytocin in this body chemical is vital for our functioning, for our body to function properly. So go back really fast to the example of mom nursing baby. That flood of that oxytocin in baby, yes, it aids in bonding, and that bonding then helps baby's brain develop appropriately. Okay.
Right.
And so we see in counseling, we see kids and adults, kiddos who have really struggled with not having enough of this flow. Struggles with, like, we see symptoms like anxiety and depression, attention issues.
Interesting. So it's not just mental, it's physical. Like the side effects are both realistically.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It is, oxytocin is as vital to our functioning as food, water, and air.
Wow.
So if we're not getting enough of food, water, or air, obviously we have serious issues, right?
Right.
And that is the same here with oxytocin. If we're not getting enough, we don't function properly. So I described really quickly what we see in kiddos if they're not getting enough, but adults similarly. If we're not getting enough flow of this body chemical, then we see adults with mood struggles. So low levels of mood, anxiety, we see irritability, depression, lack of motivation.
Yes.
So these are all cues. If you're experiencing this, these are all cues of saying, hey, like maybe I need a little bit more connection in my life.
Okay. So how do we get that? Right? I'm like, okay, I know I need it.
So we're going to look at some various different ways to on purpose take that proverbial prescription of oxytocin. Okay. So this is your medication dosage, the on purpose activities that we're going to engage in.
We need to take notes is what you're telling us.
Yes, exactly. Write some of these things down. But really what I want you to do is I really want you to think about the opportunities as we're talking about it. I want you to look into your own life and see how these things can be done and amplified in your own life, because most of us don't have a lot of time to add in a ton of different things, right? But a lot of what I'm going to be talking about can be incorporated into your everyday activities, and you probably already do, but we're going to start doing them more on purpose. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
So especially if you're noticing some of those sensations, like I'm feeling kind of lonely, or I'm feeling kind of withdrawn or down,
That's your like
way of saying, hey, I need to connect more.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
And a really quick disclaimer. Sometimes people try to connect, but there's some things going on that maybe connection is scary or traumatic in some way. And if that is you, please contact a counselor or someone to talk about those things, because there are things we can do to help heal those things so then connection can flow smoothly again. Okay. So I want to at least acknowledge it's not as easy as I'm saying right here. Always just have it flow so nicely. But we're going to talk about it. And if you're making those attempts at doing it, then seek help if that gets blocked for some reason. Okay.
That makes sense. Thank you.
So one of the first things I want you to look at in making that connection is that when we were talking about mom and baby nursing, mom and baby were looking at each other. Okay. So eye contact was an important piece. So we want to meet each other's body language. Okay. So obviously we're not nursing everybody. That'd be weird, but
thank you.
Right. But when we're talking like with our kids, with our spouse, with our neighbors, friends, we want to get on their same body level. So eye level as best as you can, so you sit next to each other. You're sitting at the table at family dinner where you're having eye contact there. You're going for a car ride. So look, we're equal here. You're sitting over here in my car and engaging in conversation in those moments. If you've got a little one, you're going to squat down or drop down on your knees and engage them there. Okay. And getting at that eye level.
Okay.
And so once you're getting in that eye level, then we want to observe kind of what their body language is. And then we're going to meet them in that body language. And this concept that I'm talking about here is called validation. Okay. We want to validate them. So we want to see and we want to validate. And validating what that is sharing that emotional experience with them. Okay. So I see my child's feeling down. I see their body language is kind of down and maybe they're upset about something, right? And we can see that in their body language, and we're going to come down to their level. And then we're going to even shift our body language really almost to be down with them a little bit. We might put our arm around them and we're going to make a statement. We're going to say, man, you look really down right now.
Right. Okay. So you're kind of acknowledging.
Exactly. So I see what there is, and then I'm going to speak it.
Oh,
okay. And so through the speaking and my body language, that gives them, that is that connection moment right there that's saying, hey, oh, she sees me. She sees that I'm having emotion, and now she's sharing that emotion with me. Okay. And so we're feeling their feels with them.
I like that. Feeling their feels, like that makes sense. I'm feeling it with them. Yeah.
Yeah. We feel it with them. And then we are showing that to them, that we feel that with them. Okay. Now, what I am not saying is that we agree with what's going on, that we have to fix what's going on. We don't have to fix it. And we don't even have to agree that it's there. We're just acknowledging the reality that it is. Okay. That this is how you feel. And I respect that this is how you feel. And I'm going to join you in that, because if we join them in that, they naturally will begin to lighten up because they're no longer in it alone. Okay. The same thing works with positive emotions. Some your kid comes home, they got an A on a test, and they're like, Mom, look, this is so exciting. And here's the A on the test. And when you join them in that, oh, that's great. And you're jumping up and down with them and they're getting excited. Again, they're like, you're feeling your feels with them and you have that shared emotional experience. Okay. So we got that eye contact going on. We're sharing that emotional experience. That bonding is taking place. That oxytocin is flooding the body. Ooh, and the body's like, yes, thank you. We needed that because that's what we need to survive here.
Yes.
Okay.
I love it.
Going through those experiences with people that like, let's take that and put it into actual experience with people. Okay.
Okay.
So
yes. Great.
We talked a little bit about family dinner, that we're sitting around the table, we're eye level, we're engaging in conversation about how was your day. That gives you great opportunity to validate in that moment, like, oh, that must have been so hard, or man, that was exciting when you made that score, or man, honey, that was a rough day at work. Having those conversations like that, that floods oxytocin in the body. We're making that connection right there.
Interesting.
We're
Okay.
also engaged in storytelling in that. Okay, we're hearing their story. We can tell our stories, whether it's stories that we experienced in that day, or we're sharing stories that we've read. Storytelling is really powerful in making this connection.
So the storytelling actually creates oxytocin as well, as you tell that story and as you hear it, both?
Exactly. That's
Okay.
exactly it. Because again, you're engaging in that shared emotional experience. So even talking about the stories and reading about the stories of our ancestors, that even creates validation. I read about my great grandma who came over from Denmark, and her husband died like 2 days into the journey, and yet she continued that journey. And I think, man, like I have had a rough day, and boy, she knew what rough was.
You're feeling her feels.
That's exactly. And so then I feel validated in that. Like, man, she survived that. I can survive that. And that when that's happening, oxytocin is flooding through the body. That's happening. Okay.
That's incredible.
And so I'm getting that literal chemical need, that physical need met, even just by reading and hearing the stories there. Okay?
Well, and I think all of us experience it, but we just didn't realize that it was happening. So I think it's really interesting to realize there's science going on within our bodies as these experiences happen. So thank you for putting a definition on it.
Exactly. So one last example that I want to share of this is they did this really, really amazing study about service. Okay. And in this study, we found out that a person who went and served, did a kind act of service for another person, that person's body who did the service, oxytocin levels went up. The person who got served, oxytocin levels went up. And that was super cool. They measured people that were around it that witnessed that service. Their levels went up. So we can, on purpose,
so just witnessing it,
just even witnessing it.
Okay, that's interesting. Keep going. Sorry.
So even just being a part of those acts and seeing those acts, we can on purpose trigger our oxytocin to go up and share that flood of that needed chemical with all of those around us. Okay,
that's really cool.
Simple acts.
Yeah.
So I want to bring this, like tie this all up. Okay, into just some basic steps here for you. So first thing here, every single person has emotions. Those emotions serve the function of helping us meet our needs. One of those vital needs that we all have is connection. Okay, it triggers that oxytocin that helps us overall function properly. So I'm going to challenge each of you to seek opportunities in your normal daily life every day. Okay, just over the next couple of days, on purpose, seek those opportunities to tell your story, share a story, hear a story, write it down in your journal. Okay, engage in that storytelling, or have family dinner together. Practice validating with each other. You're going to get fed that oxytocin, and then notice how you feel over the days and see what that does to your mood.
Oh, I love all of those ideas, only because I have to say the Family Connections experiment is what's powering this series, and every one of those is on, within the ideas and things. And that's what the whole focus of the Family Connections experiment is literally just to provide those types of ideas for those types of connections. So what you're saying is just like, wow, this is just validating everything that community project has become and is trying to provide for families everywhere. So thank you. Like that to me is just like this validation of what I feel inside, but I haven't always understood it, scientifically. So I love that you're putting definitions on it and helping us all of us who aren't in the medical sphere to understand. So yes, I love that. Thank you. What if some of us want to learn a little bit more? Are there places we can come to hear more from you about connection and about that power? Because I think this is fascinating, but I would love to dig deeper. How could we learn more from you?
I would really hope that everyone want to dig deeper into this, because we gave you literally like the teeniest fraction of this information. There's so much more and so many wonderful ideas out there. Anybody can come to my business website, which is peacebalanceandjoy.com. And we're going to have like free seminars and classes through Zoom and videos and things there that we're talking about these things way more in depth, so you can dig in that way. And you can also, like you brought up, to the Family Connections experience like Olivia shared with us.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Amy. It has just been delightful. I am excited for all the participants to continue on to go and learn how to connect in more ways with their living family and their deceased. I love that you touched on stories, because that's what our next 2 classes are about. So continue to watch the Power of Connection series to learn more about the science of it, but also to learn more ways of connecting with those family members and producing that oxytocin that Amy just did such a beautiful job of educating us about. Thank you so much, Amy.
You're welcome.
Hey guys, Olivia, we can't hear you. You're muted. We haven't heard you the whole time. I'm sitting here watching on my phone and I'm like, oh crap, I gotta hurry. I think you're muted on the StreamYard. I can't unmute you or else I would. There you are.
Sorry about that. I'm glad you're back.
Yeah, I'm out of breath.
And Michelle was probably trying to call me and I had my headphones on, so it wasn't even ringing. So I was just whatever. Sorry about that, guys. What I was saying is that I think that it's super interesting how we're all kind of becoming more familiar with oxytocin. And so our question to you guys is, what ways does your family create oxytocin? What are some of the things that you guys do that help create oxytocin in your families? I know we do an 8-second hug. Like even just the other day, I had been on this computer for way too long. And so I went out and I said to my daughter, my 12-year-old, I said, I just need some oxytocin. And so she hugged me and we just snuggle. But what are some of your guys' ways? Sorry about that. I was looking at my notes instead of the thing. So everyone was telling me I was muted. Sorry. Okay. So yes. Okay. What are some of the ways you guys do, Camille?
Oh man, that is a great question. You know what? My boys love to wrestle with each other and with my husband. And I grew up in a house of girls and my brother is the youngest. And so I did not understand that. But it's so interesting that they really do get oxytocin from that. Like they feel better. And yes, sometimes it ends in blowout fights, but most of the time they're having fun. And my husband has to remind me, Camille, just let him have fun. Just let him have fun. But that's just, I don't know. That's just, to me, that's what came to my mind first, was that my boys wrestle. And sometimes my husband will join in, sometimes I'll join in, but like, that
Yeah.
that part of like just getting in there and being active with each other. We go on walks in the summer. We ride bikes.
All of
And
those
I
things.
would say that just being together that way is really good. I need to do better at getting down on their level and talking to them that way and making those connections. I'm really glad that Amy brought that up because it did remind me that I needed to start doing that. In fact, I saw Michelle's comment. Where'd it go? There you go. She said, I think I need to listen to this one over and over again. And I totally agree, Michelle. I completely agree. That's actually what I was thinking. I'm like, I'm gonna have to listen to this one again and take like detailed notes and actually like write out what I want to do and to do better and get those going in my family. So yeah.
Well, and what I love is that you can come every second Wednesday and have a live Q&A with Amy because Amy is incredible and is volunteering her time to provide that for all of us who need our mental health help.
I love
so
that.
reminder.
In fact, I think I'm hosting it in March, so I'm excited
Yay,
to get talking with her.
You will love it. It's so much fun talking with Amy. She's incredible. So second Wednesdays on our channels, and you can come and just get some great advice. So
okay, it looks like I love this comment from Connie. She said, I have to fake smile or fake be happy to make others feel better. And I love that. It's so true. Like, if you go into something having a smile or faking being happy, you're going to end up being happy. It's going to work out. Yeah.
No, I actually was going to say I have this little motto of fake it till you make it. I say that to my kids all the time.
I love that.
And they get irritated, but it's true. If you fake it till you make it, all of a sudden it just kind of works out. So, all right, we are getting behind on our schedule. So I'm going to start the next one. This is Sydney Walker from the Deseret News. She is awesome. She's written articles about our project. She has written incredible articles about healing and forgiveness and powers that come from family history. So check out her articles for sure. But we're going to have some fun hearing from Sydney now. And I'm going to go ahead and, do you know what? I don't have the screen share on because I turned it off when I was trying to fix the audio. Sorry about that. Here we go. Back to sharing. Okay. All right, so here it is. Once again, make sure you go in and click like. Oh my goodness, it popped up from 6 to 21. Good work, team.
Woo-hoo!
You guys did all.
Okay, keep going. Go like
keep
it.
Going. And be sure you invite your friends and family to come watch with us and join us for sure for the live Q&A in 1 hour. All right, here we go.
The sound turned off, Olivia. I think you have it muted on StreamYard on that computer. Oh, you turned off the screen share. Okay.
Okay, sorry. I'm doing it again. I'll try again. What was it doing? So it didn't play it at all?
Yeah, it played it and it started doing the sound, and then I think you pushed the mute button on that computer.
Okay, ready? We ready? Okay, tell me if it doesn't work again.
Good.
So what's a reporter doing at a family history conference? Well, let me tell you. It's because I believe in the power of storytelling, and I want to share some stories with you that have really impacted me. The first one I want to share is about a woman named Cameron Perkins, who I met earlier this year. Cameron told me that one afternoon about 4 years ago, she received a phone call she will never forget. Her father, her rock and spiritual giant, had died by suicide after psychological reactions from ending a medication. Cameron said when she heard this news, it was as if her world shattered into a million tiny little pieces. It was unnerving and unsettling, and the pain was too difficult to describe with words. Cameron said about a few weeks later, as she was still processing her feelings and as reality sank in, she had a very distinct impression. Don't let this one moment in time define your father. That's not who he was. That's not who he is. You've got to find a way to celebrate his life. As Cameron thought about this, she had a thought to start adding memories to her father's profile on Family Search. Photo after photo, story after story, She even found cassette tapes of an audio journal he kept. Cameron described this process as healing, little by little, day by day. I called Cameron earlier this week to let her know I would be presenting at Roots Tech and to talk to her a little bit more about her experience. I had interviewed Cameron earlier this year as part of a church news article on the healing power of storytelling. And I asked Cameron if anything had happened since we published that article.
Will you guys let us know how the volume was on the video? Like, was it loud enough or not loud enough? Olivia, on StreamYard, you have it muted. It's still muted. Sorry, guys, we're trying. Technology's killing us today. Yeah, Olivia, the volume was fine for everyone, it sounds like. So whatever you were doing beforehand was just fine. Okay, well, we will get that pulled back up. Sydney Walker has been a big supporter of us, and we just love hearing from her. She gets to interview. Oh, I hear sound. Yay!
Time to find your father. Reactions from ending the medication. Cameron said when she heard this news, it was as if her world shattered into a million tiny little pieces. It was unnerving and unsettling, and the pain was too difficult to describe with words. Cameron said about a few weeks later, as she was still processing her feelings and as reality sank in, she had a very distinct impression. Don't let this one moment in time define your father. That's not who he was. That's not who he is. You've got to find a way to celebrate his life. As Cameron thought about this, she had a thought to start adding memories to her father's profile on Family Search. Photo after photo, story after story. She even found cassette tapes of an audio journal he kept. Cameron described this process as healing, little by little, day by day. I called Cameron earlier this week to let her know I would be presenting at Roots Tech and to talk to her a little bit more about her experience. I had interviewed Cameron earlier this year as part of a church news article on the healing power of storytelling. And I asked Cameron if anything had happened since we published that article. Cameron said that about 2 days after the article ran, she received a message from a woman on Facebook who had gone through the exact same thing just a few months earlier. This woman's father too had died by suicide after psychological reactions from ending the medication, and it was really, really difficult for her. This woman said she had been struggling, and then she came across Cameron's story in this article, and it was as if it was an answer to prayer. She was inspired by Cameron to go to Family Search as well and to look at her father's profile. She found a life history of her father that she didn't even know existed, that it was written in his own words. This lady said this brought her a lot of peace and comfort. Cameron said that she messaged back and forth with this woman for a little while, and they talked about their stories together. And telling me about this, Cameron said a quote that I want to share with you. Cameron said, "The more we can open up and be vulnerable about our own struggles, it allows others to open up and we can heal together." Naturally, Cameron had had reservations about being vulnerable and sharing her story publicly, but she hoped that it would touch at least one person. Receiving this woman's message on Facebook and being able to help her through her experience made it worth it. To Cameron, this was her one person. This is why we need to share stories. not necessarily in a public article, but with our family, with our friends, in our journal, maybe even on social media. Someone out there needs our story. I'm not a family history expert. I'm not a professional genealogist. For most of my life, I kind of tuned out when I heard the words family history. I didn't think it was really applicable to me. I thought it was something for, old people that was really boring. But recently my perspective changed. It was because of Cameron's story and others that I became passionate about family history. I realized that it's not just names and dates. It's about real people with real stories. It's about connection. When I became a reporter for the Church News about 1.5 years ago, one of the assignments I was given was to cover family history. And I thought, oh no, how am I going to cover something that I know nothing about? I went to a meeting early on where someone pitched an idea that I should explore the mental health benefits of family history. And I thought, hey, that sounds like it could be interesting. That sounds like it could be relevant to people, maybe something that people might want to read about. So I started doing research and I started talking to people. I started looking for stories about this. I stumbled upon a message given by a Latter-day Saint leader named Dale G. Renlund. And in speaking to a worldwide audience, he described what he called the healing blessings of family history. Some of those blessings he listed include love for living ancestors and living relatives, motivation to learn and change, joy, faith and clearer vision, understanding of who we are and where we come from, mending troubled or anxious hearts, and protection from temptation are just a few of the many he listed. This series expanded from mental health benefits to include how family history has helped people cope with an addiction and heal from traumatic events. Though this series I wrote is written from a religious perspective, I believe that the stories and the principles shared are applicable to all, especially because these stories are about real people who went through some very real things, and they were willing to include their names and photos to be more relatable to people who would read those articles. Today, I'm going to tell you some of the stories of the people I interviewed and 3 things I learned from writing this series about the healing power of storytelling. My hope for you listening to this presentation is that you'll be inspired to seek your family stories and share and record your own story, even if it's not perfect, even if it's not pretty, even if you don't feel it's worth telling, because it is. The first thing I learned is that every family has happy and hard stories. We need to tell both. During her teenage years, Sarah Hammond's relationship with her father became damaged as he began medicating his mental health struggles with alcohol. He couldn't hold down a job, and this put financial and emotional strain on her family. Her parents ended up getting divorced, and Sarah was angry with her father. When she went to college, her friend encouraged her to take a family history class, and she found that working on her family history was soothing, especially building out her dad's tree, or her dad's side of the family and his tree. Sarah said learning of ancestors who had complicated stories and complicated lives helped open her heart and reconcile with her father's side of the family and with him. She felt peace and support from her ancestors as she did this. Sarah said, "They want to pass on to us what they know, and most of the time, the only way that we can figure that out is by understanding their stories." Here's another one. Christina Herzog Garcia said she experienced many years of sadness and anger because she and her husband couldn't have children. Then she found somebody in her family history she could relate to. Christina said, "Just by knowing that my great-grandfather's sister was married and was never able to have children just like me, gave me a comfort knowing that someone in my family went through the exact same thing I am going through now." Lisa Ashby's childhood included abuse, grief, and loss. As a mother with young kids, she felt her body begin to shut down as the things she experienced in her past began to affect her physically. Lisa said she felt guided to write down and verbalize the traumas she had experienced. And as she did family history, she learned of an ancestor whose story somewhat paralleled her mother's complicated marriages. Lisa said, "I learned that telling the good and bad from my own personal history was helping me heal physically." Lisa's story also taught me the second point I want to make to you, and that is that healing looks different for everyone. We all have different stories, right, and different life experiences. And it's also natural that family history would help us in different ways through whatever we're trying to heal from. Amelie Bleakley has suffered from depression and anxiety for many years. She told me that during one period of really bad depression, she felt like she should begin searching for her ancestors. As she did this, she felt alive as she made discoveries. She said it helped her overcome feelings that she was useless and worthless. And as she found happy stories and sad stories, she felt connected to the people that she found. Amelie said, "Doing indexing and researching really gives you a different perspective of life, how you're not the only one with trials, how things can be tough, but life goes on anyway." Another story I want to share with you is that of Hunter Wood. Hunter told me that he had struggled with an addiction to pornography for as long as he could remember. He met with his parents and his faith leader. He went to group support meetings and received professional help. He also met a mentor who encouraged him to do family history and to try to index every single day. This mentor had Hunter text him a thumbs up every day that he indexed just to try to help keep him accountable. Hunter said that even just by indexing one name a day, he saw a big difference. Hunter said, "Indexing is an important tool, but it isn't a cure-all. Family history work can only help as much as you use it." When Caitlin Ward was 13 years old, she lost one of her friends to suicide. Caitlin said that she struggled to cope with her emotions, and she felt confused about who she was and her own purpose in life. A religious leader reached out to Caitlin and taught her how to do family history. Caitlin learned that doing family history creates connections. Caitlin said, "It's through those connections that you're able to overcome the difficult things and the trials that you're going through." I met Caitlin when I wrote an article for the Church News about the 21-day Family Connections experiment, which is a really neat experiment that helps look at the benefits of daily connection with family past and present. And Olivia Jewell gives a really awesome presentation in this track about how this experiment can help your family. So be sure to watch that. The third thing that I learned from interviewing these people about their stories is that people are more willing to talk about hard things than we think they are. They just need an invitation. Prior to writing this series, I had never really done interviews like this before, talking to people about hard things. I wasn't sure how many people would be willing to talk to me. I joined a Facebook group of people interested in family history, and I posted in there and said, "Hey, has anyone ever had an experience where family history has helped them through a period of depression or anxiety or with addiction?" And I was blown away by the response. People commented in the thread and also reached out to me in private messages. And by word of mouth, I was able to find other stories of people who had experienced similar things with family history helping them. Since these articles have been published, I've also received feedback from readers who have also had similar experiences. It's neat to see just what good can come when we're willing to open up and share the hard things that we've gone through. As you've listened to these stories, perhaps you've been reminded of someone in your family who has gone through something difficult that you want to learn more about, or a story of a friend that you want to talk to them about. I want to give you some tips that I've learned as a reporter that can help guide your conversations. And my disclaimer is this, that I'm just a reporter. I'm not a therapist, I'm not a counselor, but I hope that something can be helpful to you in whatever conversation or interview you want to do. So number one, prepare thoughts and questions ahead of time. It's always helpful to go into an interview prepared and know what direction you want to take it. Number two, start out with easy questions to build trust. It's so important that the person you're talking to feels comfortable so that they'll be more willing to open up to you and talk to you about what they're thinking or feeling or what they went through. Number three, have a conversation. Don't just drill them with questions. No one likes to be interrogated, so talk together and ask questions when it feels natural. Number four, silence isn't awkward. It's a good thing. I think sometimes we try to avoid the awkward silence, but sometimes silence is It's necessary for thinking and pondering and reflecting. Number 5, listen with compassion and not judgment. It's important that the person that you're talking to knows that you're really listening and that you're really invested in what they're saying. Number 6, don't be afraid to be emotional with them. Some of the interviews I did for this series were pretty emotional, and I was just a reporter interviewing a source. I think me interviewing my grandma, for example, about her life would allow for a even more emotional conversation. And it's through those conversations that are emotional or where we're vulnerable that can help build and strengthen relationships. Number 7, ask follow-up questions. For example, what did you mean when you said you were angry about this? Or what did you mean when you said, whatever it is? I think some of the best answers come when we ask someone to go a little bit deeper into something that they mentioned. Number 8, do multiple interviews. Be patient, right? It can be difficult and take a little while to capture a hard experience or a life story in one sitting or one phone call. It's okay to go back and ask follow-up questions. And number 9, the best question I think to end with is there anything else you'd like to say? In most of the interviews I did, the person I was talking with always had another point that they wanted to make or something to include. And so by asking at the end, is there anything else you'd like to say? That gave them a chance to mention what they were thinking, especially if it didn't go along with one of the questions I had prepared. So it's always good to ask somebody what their final thoughts are to kind of wrap up your story. So like Cameron, Sarah, Christina, Lisa, Amelie, Hunter, and Caitlin have taught me, every family has happy and hard stories. We need to tell both. Healing looks different for everyone, and people are more willing to talk about hard things than I think we think they are. They just need an invitation. And as Cameron learned from the woman who reached out to her on Facebook upon reading the story about her father's suicide, Cameron said, the more we can open up and be vulnerable about our own struggles, it allows others to open up and we can heal together. This is why we need to share stories. This is why storytelling can be so powerful, even and maybe especially the difficult stories. Someone out there needs your story. In the next part of the Power of Connection series, join Devin Ashby as he shares how to take those stories and do more. Enjoy connecting.
Okay, Olivia, you're muted again on the StreamYard, so go unmute yourself.
It must just automatically do it every time that it's.
Maybe when you share your screen, that might be.
I bet that's what it is. Hi!
Well,
Welcome back. So good to see
Hello.
you all. What was your favorite part of that one? I really want to hear what your favorites were because she had so much good, so many good resources or so many good thoughts. Wow.
Okay, I did have a question for everyone. There is a little bit of an echo. I don't know where it's coming from. Maybe it's gone now. Okay, I think it's gone now. Okay, so what family story might provide some strength or healing for you or another member of your family? So I want you guys to think about that. What story do you have that you can share? Back to the first of this live, I'll recap for you guys who weren't there, but I read my great-grandma's life history and learned that what I was feeling was not right. So I am so grateful and so happy that she shared that story, because if she hadn't, I could still be suffering right now in the dark, not feeling like myself, like I should. So,
right.
We did have a question, Olivia. Are these 9 points in her handout?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect.
And I was going to say, I put the link in here, but we'll put it in again. Connections-experiment.com/power-of-connection. that link. We'll throw it in the URL or whatever. Again, we'll throw it in there again. But that has all the resources from all these classes. It has links to all the classes on the Roots Tech website.
Yeah.
It has all of those things. So I'm throwing it in again right now.
Perfect. Now, I did have a question about that. Does it have the copy of the stats that Julianne shared earlier? Okay, perfect. Yay. I wanted to go and look at those again because they were so interesting and I was trying to listen and read at the same time. So awesome.
Right,
Okay,
right.
so I'm going to go to that website and go down and try to find that. So that's perfect.
Yes, and we are running behind. So I am going to make us start again. Is that okay? Or
Yes,
do you
please
not
do.
want to?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
I'm
let me
just
read.
trying to fill the time.
No, you're right. I just like saw what time it is and I'm like, crap. Okay. I'm going to hurry and start. Devin, tell me when you're seeing the screen.
Oh yeah, I'll add it in. Okay, now we can see the screen. I'm going to take off the overlay.
Okay, ready?
All right, my name is Devin Ashby, and I'm super excited to be here today. I'm with the Power of Connection series, and this class will be the science of family connection. Again, my name is Devin. I work for Family Search International and have for a couple of years, and I'm excited to do this today. I hope after this ends that you'll have some new ideas on how to connect with your family and appreciate that connection a little bit better. So to start, I'm not going to play this video for you, but you can find it on YouTube. It's an IKEA Christmas commercial from 2018. So you can Google IKEA Christmas commercial from 2018. And they do this game, the commercial, the target was in Spain. And so it's in Spanish, but it's subtitled. And the title is Bienvenidos a Familia Avisados. And they do this game. They invite like 5 families to come into this big room and they play this very simple game. And the rules are, if you know the answer, you can stay at the table. And if you don't know the answer, you actually have to leave. So there's all these tables, there's all these families together. And the announcer comes on and starts asking questions. And it's all about like social media. How did these famous people meet? What are the latest Instagram filters? And what can you do on Snapchat? And do you know this dance? And all the young people are answering these questions. And then some of the older ones know it as well. There's kids, teens, adults, and elderly people as well. Well, after a couple of those questions that everybody knows, they actually do a transition. They start asking family questions like, what's the great dream of your wife? Or what's your son's favorite music? And it's really interesting because none of them know the answers to any of those questions. And one by one, they all have to leave. And at the end, there's this older gentleman, this is probably a grandpa on the table, and he's by himself because nobody knew any more about the family. And they interview and they ask him, they say, how are you feeling? And he's like, I feel pretty bad that people don't know simple things about me. And then they ask the youth and they ask other people about this experience. And they basically go through and say, why do we know so much about famous people? I don't even know what I should about my family. And when mom apologizes to her son for not knowing something that he cares a lot about. So why do I even share this commercial? You should go watch it. But why am I even sharing this? It's because oftentimes we're way more connected to social media and celebrities and whatever else in the internet world than we are to those we live with. How sad is that, right? Family connection is simply connecting to who you're with in your homes with your family. Now, there's lots of different stages of family life, some with kids, with spouse, alone. There's all kinds of different things, but everybody is connected somehow to family. And especially in a pandemic year, many of those connections might have to be more virtual. But picture this in your mind as IKEA did. They're obviously selling tables here, but the dinner table, the breakfast table is a great place for family connection. And you don't need any experience and you don't need any kind of degree. You just need to want to connect. So now we're going to do a quick example, a quick activity. And I've got my trusty phone here, and I'm going to give you guys 15 seconds to answer a very simple question. So take out a piece of paper, take out your phone, take out your laptop, whatever you're using. I just want you to write down your response to this question. The question is, describe your family in 3 words. All right, again, describe your family in 3 words. I'm going to give you 15 seconds. On your mark, get set, go. Whatever comes to your mind, there's no right or wrong answer for this. Describe your family in 3 words. Okay, just a couple more seconds. And stop. Okay, I know that was pretty quick, but what did you guys end up writing down? If you're with your family or you're virtually going to connect with them soon, it would be interesting for you guys to do this activity and see what people wrote. We did this a couple months ago as our family, and my wife and I with our 5 kids, oldest is 16 and then on down to 6. We did this activity, and 4 out of the 7 of us all wrote a variation of the word adventurous. And that to me was really interesting because that is actually very true to what we do as a family. We try new things, we try new foods, we go new places, we meet new people. That is core. We love new. Our family loves new. And that is core to who we are. So how would you describe your family? If you're at a dinner table, you can do this just like in the IKEA commercial. But family connection is about who you're with and how you're connecting to those existing relationships. So the first principle I want to share is to find safe places to share. We're going to give some maybe not so good examples and then some different examples, ones that might be a little bit better. But as you consider family connection, think about safe places to share. There's lots of places to share, but not every one of those places will bring the same result. Family connection, again, is about connecting who you're with, but that might be a text, that might be online, that might be a chat, that might be an email, that might be a phone call, that might be a dinner table. So find places that are safe to share, because building family connection includes the good and the not so good, the hard, right? Sydney just spent some time talking about hard things and why that matters. This is from a registered nurse, her name is Martha Driesnack. And I actually had the opportunity to hear her talk a couple of years ago. And one of the things I love that she says, and Sydney touches on this, is she says a key element, remember, in these safe spaces for family connection, a key element for both the teller and the listener is the sharing of positive moments alongside the ability to bounce back from the difficult ones. Why is that? Well, because no family has it all figured out, and no family doesn't have struggles. And to build resiliency in kids and to teach them and help them understand, I think one of the worst things a parent can do is protect the kid from everything that they're worried about might happen to them in the world. We need to be good parents and help our kids and build our kids, but we can't protect them from everything. And sometimes they need some hard while they're still at home, so we can help them navigate that, because parents have seen more of the world. They've seen more things than their kids have. So the positive moments alongside the ability to bounce back from the difficult ones. It's not staying difficult and just do hard. It's bouncing back, resiliency. So there's been a ton of studies done on this, and I'm not just trying to point out Instagram, but this is an article from a couple of years ago, and the title is "Why Instagram is the Worst Social Media for Mental Health." In fact, if you do some Google searches and you say, is Instagram good for, and you just leave it blank, what it will autofill with is pretty insightful and pretty interesting. And if Google autofills with anything, guaranteed there are people that are doing those searches somewhere in the world. So what they did is they did this study in the UK, and they went in and they talked to a bunch of different young people, and they analyzed Instagram, and they did surveys and they did reports. And a lot of the women in particular, these young women, said that this ability to feel like you have to compete with what you see online and what you see in Instagram is so high, there's a negative self-perception. It's seen in males too, but they really point out in the study that a lot of the girls that they just felt that they couldn't measure up and that they couldn't get to that level. There's another article, I believe, from the BBC as well, and another one even from Wired, and they talk about this thing. If you've got some time, you should Google doom scrolling. That's something I hadn't heard of. So doom scrolling is this concept where it's 10 o'clock at night, you're trying to go to bed and you're scrolling, and then it's 11:30 at night and you're still scrolling, and then it's 1 a.m. and you're still scrolling. And they call this doom scrolling because there isn't really a point. It's just a whole bunch of images of what you don't have. So if you have a family connection that you're trying to build, you're trying to teach to your kids, you're trying to share with someone, social media might not be the best place, and that might not be the safest place to throw all of that, especially in mass. You might think about what that safe space might look like for you. So Dolph Lundgren, this is a great TED Talk. You guys should look up all this stuff. But Dolph Lundgren is from the movie Rocky IV. He fights Rocky Balboa. And he goes through and gets really autobiographical in this TED Talk. How many TED Talks that you've seen has anything to do with healing and forgiveness? Well, Dolph does. And it's really interesting because he goes in, I won't spoil the whole thing, but the beginning, he talks about being raised in Sweden as a little boy. He was abused. His father beat him. He remembers one time he was hit so hard, he was bleeding and he woke up to his mom crying. He eventually went up in northern Sweden and eventually went to the States to escape that. He said, but before that happened, he said a piece of him froze with that abuse and that pain. He said, a part of me froze. I think that's a really interesting phrase. Later in life, he gets married, he has some daughters, but that frozen piece of him never actually gets taken care of. And he finds himself in a really, really difficult place. And he ends up losing his marriage. He ends up losing his relationship with his daughters as well. And in that suffering and in that pain, he meets someone else who recommended two things. He says there's two things that helped him. Meditation was number one. And then the second thing that helped him was professional help, getting help. He went in, he had therapy. He met with someone and started to talk about his past, started to understand it. He did meditation. And in that therapy and meditation, he was able to heal himself and he was able to get right with himself. And he talked to his ex-wife, talked with his girls and repaired a lot of those relationships. And then he gives some advice towards the end of his talk, but Dolph isn't really that different from all of us. There's all things I would say that maybe are still frozen in all of us. And part of that healing will have to do with our family. It's really interesting. If you watch it to the end, he even gets to the point at the end, he said, I got to the point where I finally forgave my how many of us live with that pain, but haven't ever taken care of it or had those conversations? So Instagram, Snapchat, maybe not the best place, maybe not the safest place for that family connection. Maybe some professional help, maybe a trusted friend, maybe a spouse. It's not bad to talk about hard or difficult. What's bad is to stay frozen. So as Dolph recommends, there are ways that we can navigate that and build stronger family connections. So now I want to segue into a new section. We've talked about safe spaces, safe places, and now I want to talk about documenting family connections. So you might be thinking, well, you just said like, talk about it, right? Is that it? I think that's part of it. But there's also another angle, I think, that's documenting it. Now, you could document it on social media, or you could document it in your journal, or you could document it a number of different places. You could put it on, I don't know, Google Photos or Dropbox or something like that. But one of the things that's helpful, and at least in my case, when I've had big changes or difficulties or struggles, I've found a lot of healing as I've tried to write about those experiences, to journal. I digital journal. I sometimes even write. I journal in Excel sometimes because I've got this approach where I try to do a worksheet in Excel and I do 365 lines and I try to do a line a day for the whole year. And I've been doing it actually for about a decade now, and it's searchable and I can find stuff pretty quickly. But a line a day. There's lots of different ways to document family connection, and I'm going to share just a couple of them with you right now. Before I show you, I want to do this other quote. Bruce Feiler is someone he's an author. He just put out a new book, Life's in the Transitions. Actually met him earlier this year at RootsTech, the conference that this is part of, and had a very, very brief conversation with him for a couple of minutes. But he's written some great works and great books. A couple of years ago, he did an article called The Stories That Bind Us, and he published that in the New York Times. Since Bruce is from Georgia, he cites a lot of information that comes out of Emory University and talks about Robin Fivouche and Marshall Duke and several of those people who've done a lot to talk about resiliency, especially in kids. And he wrote this after he cited a lot of research from Emory. He said, the single most important thing that you can do for your family may be the simplest of all: develop a strong family narrative. Okay, does that mean you have to write like a 10-page thing on family narrative? Maybe it's in your photos on your wall. Maybe you've got a family creed or a mission statement like a business would. There's lots of different ways to do it. We have an Ashby motto, an Ashby creed that we share with each other, with our kids, builds that family identity, family unity. But developing a strongly family narrative, what do you need for that? You need a dinner table and maybe a couple of pieces of paper, and you can do the activity we did at the beginning of this class. You can build family narratives that are strong through very simple exercises. What matters to our family? What is it that we do? Our family, we do new things, we try new things. That's core to who we are. What is that for you? Strong family narrative. It's not as hard as you might think. So FamilySearch.org is a great place where you can put memories, and you can upload them, thousands of them. You can upload what you want, and it's totally free. FamilySearch is a free place to learn about your family, to do genealogy, to do research, but it's also a free place for living memory. Now, what I'm showing you right here, there's other classes in this conference that will talk about this. I'll be doing some of them as well. But what you're seeing here is a very simple photo of our family, and we're at the Golden Gate Bridge. Well, there's an ability now at FamilySearch to take a photo and do an audio commentary on it. So what we did was we got the picture, and then what we did is we got all the kids together, and we just got headphones like I'm wearing, and we said, guys, what do you remember about the bridge in San Francisco when we went there? And we just kind of passed the headphone around. And the funniest of all was our little boy, Jensen, who was 4 at the time. And he said, I thought I was going to get blown over and die. And then our daughters mentioned a couple of things, and it was really fun. And the neat thing about that photo now is it's not just a photo, but it's actually a photo with voices, because it's been clinically proven that the older kids get, the more their voices change. And they will not talk that way ever again. So if you've got littles at home, record their voices, because that's part of the family narrative. That's part of family connection. So that's one thing we did. Another one on the other side of this screen is my grandma. She's passed away, but one of the things that she did is she always made us laugh. I remember I grew up in Arizona. I remember we would go north into southern Utah, and we'd go to her house, and she would say, Devin, go get me a leaf off the lilac tree. And then I'd bring it to her, and she'd actually play it. She'd play songs on a lilac leaf. And we would just laugh and scratch our heads and try to figure out how she was doing that. Another thing she would always do is she would sing something called the pig song. And she would in the song, and we would just laugh and laugh and laugh. And I remember a couple years ago, I put something out on Facebook to a couple of my cousins, and I said, does anybody have the pig song from Grandma? And before the day was over, I had a link to the video that someone had done that I didn't do. And I didn't throw that YouTube link into FamilySearch or throw it on YouTube. What I did is I got the funny photo of her, and I did the same thing. I grabbed my phone, and I went into the app and went into her memories page. And then I hit record, and from my laptop on Facebook, I sucked in the pig sounds. I've sucked in the pig songs. So now I've made that photo richer with her voice and with her song. And now anybody that's connected to her at FamilySearch can hear that song. And it's a childhood memory to me that's wonderful and still makes me laugh to this day. So FamilySearch is a place where you can do living memories as well as build your tree up the generations. So those are some ideas on how to document family connection. So we're wrapping up with this class, and I hope it's been helpful. This is who we are. This is our family, and it's not anything crazy, but this is a good example of being adventurous. We flew back east to Virginia earlier this year, and we went to a whole bunch of places we'd never been. We went to a beach in North Carolina we'd never seen. There were so many. It was a vacation of firsts, but we loved it, and we grew as a family, and we built stronger family connection. And we all talk to this day about how adventurous that was. Our kids, we asked them about the activity. The whole time we were doing this, I would ask them, what have you learned? What are you seeing? And one of our daughters said, I've learned that fireflies are real. Our 6-year-old said, I know what humidity is now, right? My other daughter, she's 11, and she said, frog legs taste like chicken. We've never had those before. So this is an adventurous photo, right? Because that's who we are and what we do. There's been difficulties, like every family, like Dolph, like hard, like Sydney talked about, and we've had experiences with those as well. But we bounce back, we rebuild, and we build that family narrative. So coming full circle back to IKEA, my big invitation is to pull up your dinner table and don't talk about the world, don't talk about social media, just talk about your family and build family connection. That's what's most important. So again, my name is Devin. Hopefully this has been helpful. Buckle up now, because Olivia is going to talk to you about a new series of activities called the Connection Experiment, which will just add more layers of family connection. So thanks for your time and enjoy.
Hey!
Hey!
Can you hear me? Is the audio actually
I can't
working?
hear you, Olivia, but you're not muted, so I don't know why. Is it me? Oh, maybe it's me. Is it me? Yep, it was just me. I had pushed mute. Sorry. My fault. You can't hear who? Oh, Michelle? Olivia. Can't hear Olivia still. Now you're muted. Now you are muted on StreamYard.
Okay.
Now we can hear you. We're good. Woo!
That's because when
Okay.
Camille told me I was muted, I unplugged my microphone thinking it was
Sorry.
somehow causing a problem.
That was my
Sorry.
fault.
No problem. You think you do the same thing and you think it would keep working and it just doesn't, you know? So-
Yes. We are all friends here and we're having fun.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So we are going to do a quick transition. Olivia is going to start pulling up the video while I chit chat with you guys.
It's ready.
I love Devin. So if you guys don't know Devin, he actually helped found Roots Tech. Like, he helped create it. He's been the brains behind it for a long time, one of the brains. So that's really cool. And he's been teaching at Roots Tech for 11 years now. And actually, when I first started family history, I went to a conference and Devin was one of the teachers. And so it was so fun to learn from him and now get to know him better, having that foundation of knowing who Devin is. So that's what's so fun.
Sorry, I just realized that echoing was coming for me.
You're fine.
All
I
right,
was just trying to
ready
talk over it.
to go. The last class is about the 21-day Family Connections Experiment. Some of you are incredible and you already know all about it, but for those of you who are not and are new, we are excited to introduce it to you. There are some great fun finds and we are going to have a great chat as soon as this class is over with all of the presenters live. So keep your questions coming in. We're compiling a list. We'll for sure ask them. And we definitely want to get all of your questions answered in the next little while. So enjoy this class and we will... It's showing, right?
Not yet. Here, I'll add it to the screen. Okay, it's our beautiful Olivia.
Oh, thank you. You're sweet. Okay, go ahead and click the like button and go ahead and start connecting with us now in the chat room because there's people asking about the experiment. So if you participated, go in there and let them know that you've loved it. We would appreciate it. All right, here you go.
Olivia, the video is muted. So if you would start it over and unmute it in the StreamYard. No, it's muted in StreamYard, so you'll have to unmute it in StreamYard. Sorry, guys. I promise technology is normally our friend. Okay, so yes, we are going to be learning about the 21-day connections. And I would like to know, I can still hear myself on here. I would like to know how many of you guys have actually participated with us. Let me know in the comments when you guys originally joined us. Okay, good. It's on. Okay, see you guys later.
2020, what a year. Am I right? My 2020 started off like many of yours. Actually, it started off great. I started at Roots Tech 2020, where I was teaching classes about connection and families and learning more about it, meeting people and having those connections. And it was just an incredible experience. Not even a week after that, I come home to basically lockdown. And it was crazy to go from that high to that low. After about 6 weeks of being mom, best friend, teacher, cook, cleaning woman, and all of those things to my 4 children, I started to have the walls closing in around me. And my husband said, "You need a break." When I took that break, I had an inspired thought. Well, 3 thoughts. The first was, you need to do the 21-day family history challenge. You also need to invite all your friends to do it, and you need to measure the psychological benefits. What? Okay. The background is the 21-day family history challenge is a challenge I did several years ago. It was an invitation to women who were feeling stressed and overwhelmed. And basically she was inviting us to try connecting through family history for 21 days. I did it and I had an incredible experience. So much so that for years I've done it anytime that I start feeling meh, just kind of out of sync. It also kicked off my entire journey of teaching about family history because it opened up my mind to what family history really is, and that it's more than just connecting with the past, but that it's also the present and the future. And so that's exciting to me. And so I could understand why during this isolation, I would feel motivated to try that. I also, it makes sense to invite my friends, right? Why wouldn't I want to invite my friends? They're in isolation too. They could definitely use this. The third one was a little more troubling. Measure the psychological benefits. What? I'm not a scientist. I'm a mom. I'm a family historian. I don't know anything about the psychological benefits. So when I thought about that, I decided I wanted to do a little research and see what was out there. And basically, I wanted to be able to have a little evidence if I was going to invite my friends to do this, that there was maybe some value in it. Beyond the word of my word, because I knew it worked, but so I started digging. And the first part was the 21 days. Why 21 days? Well, we've all heard, 21 days to make or break a habit. That's great. But I did a little research and then I realized, of course, we all know it takes 21 days for our neural pathways in our brains to reroute themselves, right? I'm just joking. Of course, we don't all know that, but that was a little more boring research. The fun research came when I started digging about why family history might be valuable. So I want to share a quote with you from Libby Copeland, and she is an author and she is an incredible author and she's here at Roots Tech. So go check out her class as well. She said, "Family history teaches what's possible." I like that. We are all of us the legacy of ordinary people. People who set out for new places and fought wars and kept working hard when they were tired and kept being brave when they were scared. I love that. She then goes on to say, we are the products of their ingenuity, their luck, and their stubbornness. I love that too. Family history offers lessons that can be bracing, cruel, and optimistic, sometimes all at once. Okay, I'm starting to see why there could be some serious power to doing this for 21 days. She says they are lessons in the tenuousness of life and in endurance. Family history can be a means of connection and solace. Oh, I love that. Connection and solace. The word connection started to stand out to me a lot as I started working on this project and exploring this. And it led me to this quote from Emma Seppala. And it's also in Psychology Today, which is where I found Libby Copeland's quote as well. And she says, social connection improves health, well-being, and longevity. The truth of the matter is that a sense of social connection is one of our fundamental human needs. We've explored that a lot on this Power of Connection series. And if you haven't watched the rest of the Power of Connection series, I invite you to go back and look. We've talked about emotional well-being and physical well-being, and I know you can learn a lot from exploring those courses as well. But she adds here that what I think is interesting is we can foster, nurture, and build our internal sense of connection. I love that. If we can foster and build and nurture it, then we have a lot of power to use all of these things that we've talked about with the power of connection to improve our lives and our families' lives. Okay. And so the 21-day Family Connections Experiment was born. So what is it? Exactly. It's a 21-day social experiment exploring the psychological benefits of daily connection with family past and present. It's also a community project. It's built by the community for the community, and it's rooted in family history. We've been careful about how we've chosen to word all of our slogans and our titles and things like that, because we want to open up the world's mind to what family history can truly be. So it goes beyond your traditional family history research and genealogy research into connecting with living and future and past family. But mostly it's an experiment. It's an experiment where participants can come, they take a survey at the beginning and at the end that gauges their mood, and then they commit to 21 days of increased connections. They engage in family connection activities each day for as little as 5 minutes a day. And we have a huge library of resources, several 21-day plans with different themes that they can use and get daily prompts. Or there's other resources like our Connections Idea Generator, which is an incredible resource that you can come and get a quick idea any day, a variety of topics and styles of connecting. And you can also come and use that to connect even if you're not a participant, even if you're just needing a little connection in your life. Some of the ideas that are on our plans and in the Connections Idea Generator that you would see would be fun things like connecting with your family through family story time, sharing either family history stories or talking about something that's happened in your family's life that maybe you all have some different perspective on. You can use tools like WhatsApp or Marco Polo or Zoom to record these conversations and engage in this storytelling. What about playing games? We love to play games with our families, turning that into family history. These activities are basically ideas for how to do that and connect in these unique and fun ways. Dinner time Q&A, that's one of my favorites. Just being intentional about asking your kids and your family specific questions and sharing specific things from your life. And celebrating birthdays never gets old because we can always use more cake, right? So why not celebrate an ancestor's birthday? And I do this one often. I love cake. And then how about calling a relative, even an aunt or an uncle, and just getting to know them a little more, having some good questions thought out beforehand or shared with you through our activities in our Idea Generator. And you can even do genealogy. So there's so many fun, incredible ways for connecting. That's just a few. There's also great resources about the evidence of basically what this project is about. Now, I have to say here that we're not scientists. We are just people who are exploring this. And so, of course, it's an informal experiment. It's definitely not scientific, but it's fun to see what participants come and experience. So what happened as we did this? Well, let me show you. We had over 5,500 participants participate from 77 different countries. I cannot tell you how exciting that was. When the small group of us got together and started putting this together, we thought we'd be lucky to have about 200 people. And here we were with 5,500. We didn't even know what to think about that. And then from all over the world, that was so exciting. We had over 3,400 people follow us in different social channels, which was great because we got a lot more communications and interactions. And then we had 86,000 page views. That floored me. What was super cool about this one was that our average time on the website for someone visiting was over 2 minutes. To me, that said that they were coming and they were engaging and they were enjoying those connections with their family. It wasn't just a brief visit. They were spending time and getting to know and engaging in these activities. So what did we learn? I'm really excited to share this with you because this is basically what we learned from the results of the surveys. I'm going to share the screen a little bigger for this part. All right. So of course, the first thing we want to ask is, did moods improve? That was our number one question we asked on our survey. 75% of participants reported a mood improvement as they increased their connections. That was so great. Basically, what we set out to do was show that our moods would improve, and this showed that. I was so excited about that. But we also gauged a few other things along the way. One of the questions we asked was about anxiety and depression. And so this was the way that we worded this question. It said, I have found myself feeling anxious or depressed. And the answers were always, often, sometimes, rarely, and never. What I love about these, when you look at the pre-experiment on the left and the post-experiment on the right, is how often went from almost 25% to a tiny sliver on the right in the post-experiment survey. That is exciting, that many people would go from often to not that many people having it often. But what was even more cool to me was if you added up the people who were never and rarely in the pre-experiment, there was only about 25% who were in that lower category, which is where we would all love to live, right? And by the end of 21 days, you had almost 75% of the people reporting that they never or rarely felt anxious or depressed. That's success in my book. So the other question we asked was, similar style. I have found myself feeling unlovable. Always. Often. Did you notice what happened there? Always and often was 0 participants reported feeling that on the post-experiment survey. That is awesome. Sometimes you can see that one jumped from quite a good chunk to a lot smaller chunk, but this is my favorite, rarely and never. Look how big it was. By the end, nearly 97% of participants reported that they never or rarely felt unloved. I love that. That made me so happy. If you have family and friends who are struggling with self-esteem and these feelings, like, give this a shot. Invite them to come and participate and try. Okay, so we had so much success in May that we decided, let's try it again in October. We had a lot of people request, are we going to do this again? So we did it again in October. And with this experiment, we decided we were going to add one more question. And that was, if you have a negative habit that you would like to overcome, how problematic is it for you on a scale of 1 to 10? With 1 not being at all and 10 being extremely. Now, our logic here was just, hey, let's gauge and see if this whole 21-day concept can maybe help us overcome some bad habits. So let's take a look at what our findings were. So in the pre-survey, you can see that most people were reporting a 7 or an 8 or a 9, which is pretty, 7 or 8, which is pretty high. That's pretty problematic in my world if extremely is 10. And by the end, see what happened. That 7 and 8 shrunk significantly. We only had 10% reporting 7 and less than 5 reporting 8. 9 and 10 were all very low too, which was great to me. I mean, it's not like scientifically proven that we're going to overcome a bad habit, but there's evidence there to me that says, hey, this might help. So if you have a family member who's trying to overcome a negative habit, this might be a great resource. All right. Now this question is one of them I'm very excited to share with you as well. Excuse me. And that is, what did you learn? This question is what we asked on our survey. And I had such an incredible experience exploring the answers to this question. So I'm just going to share a few of the participants' experiences with you. This challenge has renewed me. I needed and wanted to feel more connected with my family, and you made it possible. Thank you. It helped me feel purposeful. It increased the calm and peace in our home. I finally made peace with myself. I don't like record searching much, but have never allowed myself to work on photo books because to me, they didn't count. Now I'm enjoying the freedom to do what makes sense for me at this time in my life. This participant shared with me a story about how she did family story time on Zoom, and a couple of her siblings who had not been speaking with each other for over 7 years were in this story time and connected. And by the end, they were laughing and connecting with each other. And she was so grateful for that experience. She said, "Your challenge got me thinking outside my own box, and I am so grateful." Family history is a mood booster. Yes, it is. We could have been fighting or having a bad day, but when it was time for the experiment, we all started smiling and laughing. And what household could not use a little more smiling and laughing and a mood boost each day? This participant said she put down her phone for a change and got to know her personal family that she loved so much better. "I really thought I knew them," she said, "but I know them way better now." And we could all benefit from that. "I really felt like this was a support for me and my family. It was there to help me out when I needed ideas, but it wasn't so challenging that it made me anxious. I felt more connected to my family that needs me now. And that to me was priceless." Family is so important. I learned that just a few minutes of connection each day brings a wealth of love and hope, especially while we've been quarantined. I learned that I want to find all that I can about my family background and also to encourage others to do the same, not just names and dates, but who they were and what they did with their lives. I learned that learning about ancestors doesn't have to be boring. That's what I learned too. And I've been trying to shout it from the rooftops since. I invite you to come and participate. Come visit us at connections-experiment.com. Opt in. We switched things up this year. What we're doing now is having a special featured plan every month that you can participate in. Our other plans are always available, but we were trying to cater to the community who were asking, can we do this more often or when we want to, or, different timing. And so we thought we'd make it easier and more available. So you can come take the survey, come pick a plan or use our featured plan that month, get the reminders, and then just report back to us and let us know how it went. Take that final survey, let us know if your mood improved, and share it with your friends and your family. We're also always looking for people to help us contribute to the project. We would love your ideas for activities, for plans, how-tos, interviews, anything that we can do to make connecting with your family, past and present, more fun. We want those ideas. So bring them to us. We also have an incredible community of volunteers, and it's always growing. We would love to have you on the project. If you have passion for this, I cannot tell you how much fun it is to be part of it. So come and join us. Let us know. And with that said, I just want to invite you. I look forward to seeing you at the project. Let us know if you heard about it at Roots Tech. We would love to hear about that. We'd love to connect with you more and enjoy connecting at Roots Tech. You're going to have an incredible experience. Just enjoy the journey. And thanks for joining us on the Power of Connection series.
Olivia, you're muted on StreamYard. There we go. We'll get this figured out.
We might have gotten
Right
it
at the
figured out by the last one, which is awesome.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I'm going to reject that because now we are done and now we don't have to worry about it. Okay. Oh, that was wonderful. I was live chatting with people on the Roots Tech website, so we were able to get a bunch of people that are really interested in the experiment and excited to hear what's going on. And that is so great. I'm going to throw out there, Michelle, would you shoot Devin a quick email because he's not in here yet, and I think he probably forgot. Or
Yeah,
just
remind Devin. We want to talk to Devin.
we want him here too. But we have our
Olivia,
incredible presenters.
Your video was awesome. I loved how you shared the comments that we got from the first few experiments. I hadn't heard some of those, so that was really cool to hear them. It's awesome to see how much work we've put in and how much it's paying off. So that's been really cool.
No, I agree. And what has been super fun is that ever since, because before I had that class, I didn't take the time. Like I had read them, but I hadn't like delved into the comments that people had given. And I really, really enjoyed digging into the comments. And since then, I've paid more attention as comments have come in. And there's been so many great ones that I need to find some great place to put all of the comments so you all can, because they're powerful and it's really fun hearing what people have experienced. So I thank you, Camille. Thank you. It was fun putting these classes together. I enjoyed meeting all of these presenters so much. It was such an incredible experience just learning from them. They're all wealth that's not the right word. Wealth of information. I don't know.
Knowledge, yeah.
Yes, wealth of knowledge. So the good thing is Camille has been working hard and taking all of the questions and putting them into a spreadsheet, but we would love to hear if any of you have any more questions for these guys, because we're going to bring them on and we want to just make sure we get all of your questions answered during this time, and we'll continue to chat and look at all of your comments as we chat with them. So are we good to invite them on? Is that good?
Yeah, I think that's great.
All right.
It looks like Devin is not quite with us yet, so hopefully he will join us. But right now we've got Julianne, Amy, and Sydney with us.
Julianne. Hey, Julianne.
Hi.
And there's Amy. Hi, Amy.
Hi.
And here we go. I didn't really
your names.
I didn't really warn them. I just brought them on. So, hi guys. Welcome to the party. It was so much fun watching this series. I had watched it all, but not since I had submitted it. So it was fun to get the recap today. So thank you for your participation in this series, and thank you for coming today. We are super excited to have you and just be able to allow the other participants to ask you questions and find out more, maybe dig a little bit more into this. So thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here. We appreciate you. All right, Camille, I'm going to let you run the questions. Is that cool?
Okay, perfect. I'm going to pop it to the banner, I think. Let's see if this looks good. Okay, so our first question, I need to capitalize or I'm going to look funny. Okay, so this is our first question is, does the research differentiate between physical interactions versus virtual interactions? So, because Olivia and I talk on Zoom, is that going to give us the same physical and mental goodness as in if we were sitting next to each other? I don't know. I'm trying to word the question correctly. Hopefully you understand it.
So I'm assuming that question's for me since I'm a researcher.
Probably.
The hard part is I wish I could just say yes or no, as if it was, as simple as that, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the research is very mixed, and it really is because, of course, there are so many different tools, and the way you use those tools creates obviously a very complex story, and so. I can't just say yes, it is, or no, it is not. And one thing I can say is that we have decades and decades of research evidence on the importance of connecting in person, and we just we're in this really strange situation right now where our contact is so much more limited. And so what I really hope will come out of this is some really fantastic evidence that will help us better understand this, because clearly there's a need. And so it's probably going to be more about how to use these tools in a way that does foster connection and can help alleviate some of the stress we're all feeling and to feel connected when we can't be in person.
I like that. Thank you so much for sharing that answer. Okay,
I think it's interesting, just to go off of that. I do think I like what you said, where you said this will provide more evidence. Unfortunately, we can't take it. We can't look ahead and see what it is, but I think it'll be really interesting. So I am excited to follow your research on the topic.
Yes. Okay. So we had lots of social butterflies commenting during the presentation of your guys' classes, but we did have some introverts asking some questions. So This wasn't directed towards anyone, but if any of you feel qualified or would like to answer this one, the question was, what can I spelled that wrong, sorry. What can introverted people do to experience more connection without feeling that overwhelm?
Can I take this one for a second?
Go for it.
This is such a fantastic question because that's a real thing. Introverted people, people that have, and not all introverted people have anxiety, but people with anxiety, that is really overwhelming to put themselves out and try to navigate those social interactions. So when I work with people that struggle with those things, for one, the online format is one way that they can actually start to do that, because they're in that aspect, it creates a natural boundary, like an actual boundary there that they can navigate that a little bit. But of course, I'm going to encourage them to connect in person as much as they can. But not everyone has to have 1 billion people in their friendship circle. A couple close people that they can rely on and build a support system with is enough to help meet our needs. So we don't need 1 million, but a couple really good ones. And just so I encourage them to take those close relationships they have and spend time in them and nurture them and have those interactions to build on that.
Awesome. I love that you pointed out that you can have those 2 or 3 close family or friends that you can interact with, and then hopefully you won't feel that overwhelm. They're a safe place to experience that connection. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
Did anyone else have any comments on that?
Well, I want to add something that Julianne pointed out in her interview, in her presentation. She said, obviously there's some relationships that aren't healthy. And I think, as we're talking about, when you're being selective about your group, being conscious of the people who maybe don't create that for you. And ever since she said that to me, I was like, that's true. Like, it is something we have to be conscious of, especially if you're, like Amy's saying, if you only have that small, tight knit group. I think that makes sense. So not that I'm an expert, but I loved that Julianne pointed that out.
I love that too. Thank you.
Can I just add too?
Yes, please, Devin, go for it.
Just really quickly, I would just keep in mind that there's no gold standard in connecting. There's nothing that says you have to do it this way. There's nothing that says you have to do it this long. There's nothing that says you have to do it with this many people. I would not be overwhelmed by starting small and not think that I could never interview someone like this or like so-and-so or like that. I wouldn't think about that at all. I would look for relationships that are deep and that matter. And if a phone's better, great. And if FaceTime is good, fine. And if an email is good to start, fine. There's no standard.
A text message.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I think the important thing is that you start the conversations, because if you're sincere, every time I've tried, or my wife or we've tried to be sincere, it's only ever been reciprocated beyond anything we could have ever even imagined.
I love that. Thank you.
Great point.
Okay, so we do have a question while we're on this virtual subject. Melissa asked, there we go. How can you get your family to feel comfortable talking virtually? They've tried it a couple times and it's just super uncomfortable. Anybody want to take a stab at this one?
Who did you say?
Oh, I just said anyone. Anyone want to take a stab at it?
I thought you assigned it to someone because no one's like jumping up. No,
I mean, I'd be happy to answer some a little bit, just because I've experienced this myself. We tried that over Christmas, trying to get some extended family together, and we had this massive Zoom call with like so many of our family on, and it was amazing how much dead silence there was because nobody dared talk. But what it took for us to actually start trying to get that going is we had to actually create a purpose in talking. So we had to create some activities for everybody to pipe in, giving like almost like what we're even doing here, putting a question up, and then that encouraged people to actually then answer the question. But when they were trying to like think about their own stuff, I didn't want to like step over, just everybody didn't talk. So just putting that purpose out there, we found helped that a great deal.
Well, and I'll add to that, it's interesting because it's really all about connecting, right? And so if whatever situation you have, if it's actually taking away from that, move to something else. You know, we can still call. And so if that's more comfortable and you're going to be able to connect emotionally better in that way with that particular person, that's okay too. And so, you know, it might take a little bit of trial and error, and maybe it's smaller groups, or maybe it is, you know, having it structured. And so, you know, it could be just, you know, trying different ways, but ultimately what is helping to facilitate really feeling connected with the people you're connecting with.
I love that.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you. Anything else really fast?
I would say go to the connections experiment and find a whole bunch of really great ideas and try them all.
sure.
And one of them's bound to work.
Right, exactly. Yes. Our idea generator, we now have that interview one, or even that dinner question one. I think those would be some great questions to ask to kind of break the ice and help everyone feel comfortable.
I think too, it's, in my experience, it's best to not start with, well, what do you want to talk about?
Right.
Because that doesn't work so well. And it in many ways, it shows insincerity, in my opinion, because you haven't come ready with something you really want to know. Whereas if you come and say, hey, tell me how you met, or tell me something that you know now that you wish you knew when you were a teenager, that changes everything, because then you have somewhere to go, and it's not, well, what do you think?
No, it's true.
Well, I'm sure Sydney can say this, but everyone loves talking about themselves, right? So that question, those kind of questions are perfect, Devin. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I want to add this. Sorry, Michael said this, and I was like, yes, because Marco Polo, like when we interviewed the lady from Marco Polo, she thought it was weird that I used it for journaling. Like, she was like, that's interesting, but it's actually a really great way to get people engaged when they're ready and in their way. Like, they can respond to questions on their terms and in their way. So, you know, I use that a lot. And so, you know, maybe those family members who aren't going to interact in a big setting, maybe they will just do that little recording. So that's a great idea.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay. So this question was for Sydney, but I would love to hear it from all you guys. So be thinking. But what have you learned from sharing stories in your own family also? Because you share stories in the news, you share other people's stories. So we want to hear, what have you learned about your own stories?
That's a great question. I learned, I think by doing these articles and interviewing people about their own stories, I realized that there's so much about my family that I don't know that I wish I did. Okay. So when people would mention, oh, you know, this happened in my past, and I thought, oh, I think I have a story like that too. And it just made me want to do more. And I mentioned in the presentation that I did, but I don't have a super strong background in family history. I wasn't a family history enthusiast. It was really this assignment at work that prompted me to look into this. And so I think, yeah, just the biggest thing is I need to do more of it. So I need to practice what I preach. But also that maybe we don't know our grandparents' backgrounds as well as we think we might. You know, there's always stories that we don't know. I learned that, so I lost my grandfather in May of last year, and participating in his virtual funeral, I heard so many stories that I'd never heard before. I thought, man, I wish I would have taken the time when he was alive to ask him about these things. Right. So that's just my initial thoughts, to do better and do more.
I think we all need that.
Yes, yes. Okay, we did have a comment question that just popped up. It's a multiple one, so I'll just ask the first one. Sydney, do you ever interview someone who is willing to talk to you but doesn't necessarily want their story broadly shared? How do you handle that, or encourage them to want to share their story to help others?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So yes, that does happen. And in fact, one of the women that I interviewed, Cameron, actually, she was really nervous at first using her name.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And it took time. And her story, for those who aren't familiar with her story, she lost her father to suicide. That's a very sensitive topic, and that's really hard to talk about. So in our initial interview, she said, you know, I don't know if I feel comfortable including my name. I'm not sure how my sisters would feel about this or my extended family. I said, that's okay. I said, take as long as you need, think about it. If you're not comfortable sharing your story, we don't have to. And so I tried to be really respectful of those boundaries. At least in a news setting, we prefer to include names where possible. There are settings where we have anonymous sources, but most of the time we prefer to include people's names. And so I really just learned to be respectful, and it takes time. And in Cameron's case, after thinking about it and talking to her family, she felt comfortable moving forward, hoping that others might be able to be inspired by her story. And they have. It's been incredible. I talked with her this morning, and she said that just what an awesome experience it's been to be able to have her story out there. And she was nervous at the beginning, but because of this opportunity, it's been able to help her heal even more.
Oh, that's so good to hear. That is awesome. Awesome. Does anyone else have anything to add? Okay. So our next question is for Devin. You have really studied all these like scientific studies and stuff. And so we were wondering what study has been the most insightful for you to read? Like, which one have you gotten the most out of? I'm going to put you on the spot. Sorry.
Can I have like 7? No, just kidding.
Sure.
So there are a lot of them, and I think that's a tough one. So Bruce Feiler has done a lot of really good stuff, and Martha Driesnack as well. And a lot of what they do, they pull from the research out of Emory. And I think Emory University has the genesis of a lot of these threads and these themes. But looking at the work that's come out of there, I think, and maybe this is just something to borrow from Bruce, but in his New York Times article, he talks about a strong family narrative. Businesses have mission statements, right? Companies, there's lots of people and groups that have mission statements, but family mission statements, defining what you stand for. And I think Bruce says it this way. He says, maybe the most important thing you can do is the simplest of all, build a strong family narrative. You can totally do that with your family with like Post-it notes and pencils. And if you ask good questions and you get inside, for example, our kids, we have 5, 16 down to 6. And if you ask them what they think your family stands for, they'll write it down. And we actually just did this a couple weeks ago, and asking them what they think and asking them what in my case, what Ashby's do, they'll write those things down. And then if you gather those and say, Eden, why'd you write this? Or so-and-so, why'd you write this? And you talk about it, themes will emerge. And so for me, this family narrative is totally in your family. You just need to kind of pull it out and discuss it. So a strong family narrative is really the simplest thing I think you can do. And you really can do it with Post-it notes or just even talking. It's like no tech involved. But I like that because it's something that anyone can do. And you can build that and define that and build that resilience as a family.
Awesome. Julianne, can I pose that same question to you?
Oh gosh. So, I was thinking about that, and of course, I'm going to get really nerdy.
We love it.
I don't know if it'll be interesting to anyone else but me. But there was probably 2. One, and they're part of larger kind of areas of studies, but one in particular is some work by Steve Cole at UCLA that shows the neurobiology of how it is that our relationships, get under the skin per se. And so how it goes from how we're thinking and perceiving to, triggering something akin to a fight or flight response, triggering norepinephrine and these other factors in our bodies that in turn can influence everything from our mental health to our physical health to our cognitive health. And things like inflammation, which I know I'm getting very nerdy.
I love it. Keep going.
But I think the reason I bring it up is because we have we're getting information about how it is that, like I say, that these get under our skin. It's not just these interesting correlations. The other one is a study. Well, I shouldn't say a study. It was actually a combination of 4 studies that found that the effects across all ages, from adolescence to adulthood, in essence showing a dose response effect, which means that for every level of social connection, there was a increase in protection or a decrease in risk. And for me, what the kind of so what is that being socially connected is so important for everyone. It's this fundamental human need. And I think we often get caught up in perhaps thinking it's something you focus on at a certain phase of life, or for particular kinds of whether it's well-being or whatnot. But this really showed how important it is for everyone at every stage of life.
Yeah, makes sense.
Amy and Sydney, do you guys, I know you guys may not be in that study zone, reading scientific studies, Amy maybe, but do you guys have a scientific study that has really been an aha moment for you guys? And it's okay if not.
I don't have necessarily particular studies. I mean, I do a great deal of research, but I'm right in line with what Julianne was saying. As I've shared in my presentation, and I share on a regular basis, connection is as powerful as food, water, and air. It is a need at that level in us. And I have seen just endless studies, one after the next, supporting that factor. And so this is just such a great thing for people to dig into, to get literally fed and learn how to feed their families as well.
Yeah.
Camille, can I just add on really quickly?
Yeah.
I would just encourage people too who are looking for studies or looking for other things. TEDx to me is becoming a great way to kind of lower the research bar in some ways, in that you can watch a video and actually learn a lot of science and learn, get a lot of data. And the nice thing is that they're pretty short. And if you go into TED and just put in themes like healing and forgiveness and things like that, I think you'll be blown away by what you find. And so there's a lot of good stuff there that you could listen to while you're doing something and download them. And so I think there's a lot of good data that's coming into TED too as well. And you might just consider looking and doing some searches on themes and listening to a couple of those.
Yeah. And check out our evidence page, because Devin has assembled us a great list. And actually all of Sydney's classes are on there. And, I just thought we should link Amy's and Julianne's pages on that page as well. We have all of the resources from all of these classes at connections-experiment.com/power-of-connection, which we put in the URL here, but you could just go /RootsTech and find it too. But the point is, we have this whole tab full of resources that Devin has found out online that just kind of support that there's power here. And obviously we have a whole bunch that we've added through this series, and I'm grateful for that. But anyway, just wanted to point out the evidence tab. Go check it out. There's lots to explore. You don't even have to go find it. Devin found it for you.
Yes, he did. Yes. And also the IKEA commercial is on there that he talked about in his presentation, which is an awesome thing to watch, especially with your family. Okay, last question.
Wait, I wanted to see if Sydney had one. Did she?
Oh,
yes.
I felt like she had an answer.
I don't have anything else to add other than Devin has pointed me to a lot of great studies and so what's been shared, and I want to do more. I want to learn more about this too. So
yeah. Great. Wonderful. All right, Camille, sorry. I just wanted to hear if she had anything.
No, that's perfect. Okay, so this question was originally for Sydney, but I'm going to kind of morph it for everyone. So I would like to know how Sydney, well, Tara wanted to know how Sydney, how you personally like to share your stories. And then I'd like to hear from everyone how they connect, your favorite way to connect, if you don't want to share how you like to share your stories.
So we mentioned Marco Polo earlier. I've gotten into a really big Marco Polo kick with some of my old friends from college, and it's been great to just kind of share old memories back and forth, and even with family too. So I think that's fun for a video platform. And then I'm just a big advocate for journal writing. So personally, I love to write in my journal and hope that someday, somewhere down the road, someone will read it and find it interesting. But it's therapeutic for me, and it's just fun for me to be able to replay those experiences and hopefully record them for the future.
Perfect. Anyone? Oh, let's see. Amy, I'm going to pick on you next. How do you connect, or how do you like to share your stories?
My favorite way to connect is actually over food. I love to cook for people. I love to invite people into my home, friends, family. I love to get them around my counter while we're cooking. We engage together. The sensories are all going, the smells, everybody's getting excited, and we just talk about what matters to us in that moment. But ever since I started getting on the Connections Experiments site, has been fun with the Idea Finder and stuff I'll bring up. It gives me topics to bring up in the groupings as I've brought together. So that's actually even taken that and added to the experience. And that's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Shout out to the Connections Idea Generator. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, Julianne, I'm going to pick on you next. How about you? What's your favorite way to connect, or how do you like to share your stories?
I mean, the one thing that came to mind is something that I started during the pandemic, and that is my husband and I, we're both working from home, and sometimes that work and personal life kind of blur. And so one thing we started doing was every evening going for a hike together. And it was a way to help separate, but also a way to connect with each other each day. And it became a routine. And so that was one really great way. And then every night while I'm making dinner, I call my parents. And it's interesting because it's now become such a habit that literally every single night that it's dinner time, it's time to talk to mom and dad, and they expect my call, and it's been a really great way for us to really deepen our relationship and helpful for both of us.
So cool. That's so cool. What I love about that is, I'm totally going to put you on the spot. When I first started talking to Julianne about doing this series, she was kind of unsure because she could talk about isolation and connection, but like the family history part of it, she wasn't like totally there yet. But as she's sharing that, I'm like, you know what? That's like, that is family history, connecting with your family and creating those memories and sharing those experiences. To me, like, that's all part of the family history of our current families. Like, we're currently making our own family histories, right? And so she's doing it. She just didn't know she was. So
exactly. I love it. That's awesome. Okay, we're going to go to Devin, and then we have a comment or a question from social media, and then it'll be about time to wrap it up. So Go for it, Devin.
Okay, I'm going to touch on two pieces, and I'll be really quick, but I am 100% a hoster. You had mentioned hosting people. Our home is happiest when it's full, and we love parties, we love kids, we love any way we can get people in our home is our favorite way to connect, because one of the things we try to drill into the brains of our kids is life is really about relationships, and the more people you know, the fuller your life will be, and that you can you can get a lot of stuff in life, but if you develop people and build relationships with people, nothing else matters as much. And so we love to host and have people over and connect with them. How do I like to share memories? Video is my favorite platform. I'm a huge Google Photos junkie, and I love putting stuff there. But I also love building videos in a tool called Adobe Spark. And we used to write Christmas cards and send them to people. And now we do that, but we do a year in review video, and we let kids pick the photos they like from the year. And then we just let them talk about the photo and build a video of it. And the cool thing about that is it's not just a slideshow, but it preserves their voices. And most of the little kids, all they do is laugh about the photos they choose. And it's super cute to hear that because voices change. And so I love video as a platform and preserving that voice piece for our kids and doing it for trips we take, things like that. I love video as a platform. I think a lot of people, in many ways would probably rather sit down and watch a YouTube video about their family than they would crack a really big book and start reading for hours on end. So that as a platform is one thing I love.
Love that.
That's awesome. My mom has a tape record, old fashioned, of her grandparents talking. And she said the other day that it doesn't mean much to me because I never heard their voice, but it means so much to her because it's bringing them back to life through hearing their voice. So I love that you mentioned that. So thank you. Okay, really fast. Lisa Levitt had a question for Sydney Walker. These difficult stories keep coming up. So she was wondering, how would you suggest the best way to share a very difficult story when writing it down? Would you give all the gory details or would you just allude to those details?
That's a great question.
Right?
And maybe Julianne or Amy could speak more to this too from their perspectives. But
Perfect.
For me, growing up, I used to think that I needed to go back and edit my journals. Like if I had a really bad day, when I was young, right, 8 or 9, I would rip those pages out and throw them away, because I thought I don't want anyone to read about my bad days. And then one day I had this realization, and this is something that I talk about in my presentation, that every family has happy and hard stories. It's okay to acknowledge the hard times, and I think it's a healthy thing to do. As far as how descriptive you want to be, I think that's a personal thing. But you don't leave out completely the hard things. I think it's good to acknowledge them because that might give future generations strength. Maybe they're going to go through that exact same thing and they want to know, whatever it is, maybe they're going through depression, or maybe they can't have children, or maybe they're dealing with abuse, whatever it is, knowing that someone else went through it will give them strength.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that. Thank you. Okay.
Well,
awesome.
I'll just add that, it's interesting, whether you're talking about family history or posting to social media, sometimes there might be the tendency to only present the pretty parts. And so, what's unfortunate about that is that we all go through struggles. And it's important to recognize we're not alone. And by being able to see that others, particularly those who are close to you, have had similar struggles, that you can learn from that and feel connected to others through those common struggles, and that can also, help you not, catastrophize your own.
Very true.
You can get through it, and they did too, and that you have this shared experience and shared connection that can also help us with bonding.
Yeah, I love that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Amy, do you have anything to add? Really fast?
Oh yeah. I just said, if this is because that kind of question to me immediately rings people's trauma. And there is a real thing called secondary trauma, that when we dig into other people's gory details, that actually really does create trauma in ourselves. And so I am in no way saying to censor or hold back if it feels right and it feels good to do so. And there is really beautiful power of connection in the rawness of our human lives. I would say if you are, if it is your story or a living person's story, be super, super respectful that even yourself or somebody else may need to do that in stages. They may need the first time their story comes out be more vague. And as they build that tolerance for that, like you can have a original with all of the details to the side at some point that they could eventually build up to putting out there. But we wouldn't want, I talk about boundaries all the time. There's healthy boundaries in stepping into vulnerability that way. But at the same time, I want to let everybody know if they have that kind of story, that is a huge piece to the healing process, is to come to a space to verbalize and hold the tolerance for that discomfort of being that vulnerable again in your story. That is when I see people in my office shift from it being trauma to surviving and thriving.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Thomas McGinn, how do you say his name? I always mess it up. His last name.
Thomas McKenty.
Thank you, McKenty. He mentioned to me that when he finds a hard story, like Amy just said, the original, he will write it all out and then he'll fold it up and seal it in an envelope and then put it in his safe for later on. And I loved that idea that I could still document these hard stories that other people may not want to hear right now, may not be ready for, but those details have been written down and preserved and they're still available. I loved that suggestion. So thank you for bringing up those different stories. We can add different details for who we're talking to. I love that, Amy. Awesome. Well, unfortunately, the time has flown and I'm super bummed, but we're going to have to end. So we are going to do some final thoughts. So we would love to hear from you guys, you four, and maybe even Olivia, on your guys' final thoughts. What else would you guys like to get out really fast to us? And yeah. Olivia, who do you want to start with?
I don't care. Devin, go for it. You got a last message for us?
Yeah, so I don't know why this thought's coming to my head, but whether it's a spouse or a friend or a child or whoever it is, I kind of just, you guys talking make me want to do this with my family, is maybe just sit down with my teenage daughter and say, hey, sweetie, when have you seen dad struggle?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And if she's like, you don't, then I think there's some coaching, or I think that there's an invitation for me to be vulnerable and say, let me tell you a story, right? Let me help you understand something, because I 100% believe in the oscillating narrative. This is not, hey kids, you know how to prepare for the future? Never have bad days. That's not who we are. So I just am curious about the responses there. And so what I would say in parting is be vulnerable, ask. And if you don't know, maybe ask someone you trust and say, do you really think I've got it all together? Let's talk about this, because I think it's important to let people know when you have struggled in a safe space, of course. But that is critical in my mind. So I would say be vulnerable, open up, and you might learn more about yourself than you thought. But it would also help you be resilient and build that.
I love that. Thank you, Devin. I love that.
Yeah. Can I play off of that?
Yeah,
okay.
Go for it.
So I love what Devin said about being open and vulnerable. And I think it's also important to recognize that that's going to look different for everyone. So, and healing, that word and that idea also looks different for everyone. Something that I loved about this series I was able to write is all of these stories about how family history helped people through really hard things. It was different for everyone. Mm-hmm. And so everyone's family history is different. Everyone's approach to family history is different. Everyone's idea of family history is different. And also the experiences that we've had and how willing we're, how vulnerable we're willing to be may be different. There's different stages. So I think just being mindful of that and respectful of that it's going to look different for everyone. But essentially we all have things that we can share, and we benefit when we do.
Awesome. Thank you. Were those your final thoughts, or do you have more?
Yes. Nope.
That was it? You're like, I'm done. I love it. Awesome. Amy, do you want to go next, and then we'll finish up with Julianne?
Yeah, it's probably even almost coming off of what the other two have said a little bit as well. But I guess coming from my perspective, as I have worked with people over the years, the power of them having a safe place to share their story creates so much opportunity for healing. Like, storytelling is a healing process. It's a way our brain and our body digest the experiences we go through. And as we're able to do that, it can make sense of this mass world that we experience. And so I love that Devin brought up creating opportunity for his kids' perspective on his own stories, and opening up ideas for us as parents, and digging into our kids' lives and hearing their story. And I just want to like make it super, super powerfully clear to anybody that process is therapeutic. We don't always need therapists to do this work. We need good listeners and good question askers. And you are doing therapy in those moments.
Oh, that's a really cool point. Thank you for pointing that out. That's awesome. Hey, Julianne.
I guess from my perspective, of late, there's been a lot of concern about people being isolated and lonely and not feeling connected. And I think there's often the tendency that others should somehow help us feel connected. And really one of the most powerful things that we can do to feel more connected to others is to help other people. And so really by supporting and being a source of, whether it's emotional support or other kinds of support, that can help us feel, not only help them, but help us. And so those acts of kindness and service are one of the best ways we can feel connected. And to tie into the theme of stories, another incredible way to build those connections and to build those bonds is to express gratitude. And that can happen through stories. Letting someone know, oh my gosh, I remember that time that you did this, it made such a difference in my life. And expressing that gratitude is so important and can really help us feel connected.
I love that. Thank you so much. You guys are all making me teary-eyed because this is so awesome. And I love being able to connect with my family. So thank you so much. Thank you. I don't know what else to say. We are having some of the coolest comments in our feed. I hope you four are reading those too. They're up in the comments section. But people are saying this is the best of Roots Tech, your guys' classes, your guys' series. So I hope you guys realize how cool this is. You guys put together some incredible classes. They are so powerful, and I've learned so much from watching them. Awesome. Thank you. You're throwing those up, or Michelle, who's ever doing that.
I would love, oh, you were pulling one more up. Thank you everyone who came, and I'm going to excuse these guys, but I want to give a few shout outs to future things, but I know they probably all have really busy life things that they need to get back to. But those of us who are Roots Teching, we'll just keep on Roots Teching together. So I want to let you guys know about all the fun events and connection opportunities we have coming up. But first, I want to say thank you to Julianne, Amy, Sydney, and Devin. Thank you for coming today. Thank you for being here. And feel free to I'll slide you out slowly. So just wave. Bye. Bye, Sydney. Bye, Amy. Bye, Julianne. Thank you so much. You guys are the best. If you want to stay back scenes, great. We'll chat with you after, but I didn't want to make you stay if you couldn't. So basically, I just wanted to make sure we gave a few shout outs. We are doing a psychological benefits discussion. Sorry for the graininess of this image, but Roots Tech is hosting this. They invited us. Oh, sorry. It's a GIF, that's why. I'll just click on it again. But basically on Saturday at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, we are doing a psychological benefits discussion, and it's hosted by Roots Tech, and you can come in and be part of that discussion and basically just help us get the conversation going in this community so people can learn about it. I'm going to pop this one up too, because as I keep talking, this is how you can find out what events we're doing. We are going to do a desktop diner where you can converse and interact with different presenters at Roots Tech. We've been trying to get as many of them to sign up as we can. That's tomorrow at 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We tried to make it global so the world could see it and hear about it. But go ahead and send a text message to 81010 at Roots Tech, or at RT Connect is the message you're going to put in the text message. Send that to that, and we will send you text notifications before each event so you can be in the loop. Because I know for me, that's how I need it, because Roots Tech's so crazy. There's so much going on. It's hard to know what, is what's coming up. So that's how we're going to keep you informed about everything we're doing. But know we're doing an after party. We're going to throw that one up because that'll be fun. It's going to be right back here on our social channels. We have Thomas McKenty. We have Wendy Smedley. Devin will probably be back to join us. Sam Williams is helping us out with some of these. It's going to be so much fun. We're going to connect with just influencers in the community, presenters, and all of those. Just so many people that will make it so fun, and it's going to just be a great way to come together at the end of Roots Tech and share what we learned, share what we had, and there will be a ton of prizes. We've got lots of prizes, so it'll be fun and interactive. But connections-experiment.com/rootstech, and you can see all of this information on that page if you want to see it. There's a lot of other things. We have a Twitter party coming too.
Yep.
And Tara Lynn and Sarah are both going to do watch parties for one of their classes, which is great and exciting. So just keep watching our channels. Once again, I'm throwing this one up just so that everyone can grab it. Send that text message to the phone number 81010. Type in @RT Connect and send it, and you'll get signed up for those notifications. I just want to make sure everyone has the opportunities to connect in live ways with each other, with us. We would love to connect with you more. Find us in the chat rooms. Continue to connect with us on our social channels. And is there anything we want to shout out to any of the people, any of our participants? Like, was there anything we missed that was, I loved all those last comments.
Yeah, everyone's just saying, and I think, so I had a conversation with my mom today, and she was like, this feels so different. It just feels, I think Olivia said it feels like a regular day. It feels like I can just click on these classes anytime. And we want you to feel the love of Roots Tech. Roots Tech is such an amazing time. It's honestly one of the best 3 days, 4 days, 2 days, 1 day, however long I spend there when I get to go. And I just love it. So this is how you do it. You come and you connect. You chat. You come to our watch parties, our live events. That's how you make it special for you.
Yes. Absolutely. And then you come, because I totally forgot about this, join us for Genealogy Bootcamp. So you're going to watch all these great Roots Tech classes. It's going to be crazy, and you're going to learn so much, but you're not going to necessarily know what to do with it after. So come to Genealogy Bootcamp with us next month. Camille has assembled an incredible plan full of just easy to follow steps. So we will guide you in the month of March through everything you've learned. You can come and you can learn step by step. We'll break it down, make it easy, and you can be connecting with us. We'll hold your hand through the whole process, make it easy, make it fun. And you're going to be, if you're not a genealogist now, you'll be a genealogist by the end. You'll just be so comfortable. And if you're a genealogist, come and do a reboot. Come do a reboot of your genealogy during boot camp. Yes. Kind of refresh your perspective on things. Try a few things new on your trait. You'll love it. We guarantee it. Money back guarantee. Since it's free.
Yeah. So we want you guys just to come and to learn the basics again. Or learn the basics brand new, or maybe you missed something when you went through it the first time. I've been doing a reboot of my own genealogy, and it's been crazy how much I have learned. Sorry, kids, mom life. Anyway, it's been crazy, the stuff that I'm like, oh, wait, I didn't know about that. I need to go back and read that again. Like the Family Search Wiki has so much information. And anyway, we also have a workbook that's coming out with it. And I'm so excited for it. I've put in so much time, and Christine has, and the rest of the team has helped with it. But this workbook is going to have pages you can print out to do your family history. It's going to have, or genealogy, whatever you want to call it. It's going to have, sorry, mom life. Anyway, it's going to have extra activities to help you learn more. It's going to help you take what you are doing and your stories. I think that's the blood of it, is that we are taking your stories and you're proving your stories with these hard facts through these records. And so that's what I want you to come and do in March. Come and help these stories grow and be true, and then how to share them. So come in March and help us out.
Yes, and tell all your friends and family. Bring them too.
Yes.
We'll love it. All right. Without further ado, we will wrap this baby up. Thank you for coming. We will see you tomorrow. Tara Lynn's watch party is at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard. And then we have the Twitter party at noon. We have the desktop diner at 2. And then Sarah's watch party is at 6. So we have a full schedule of events tomorrow. So we will definitely see you then. And be sure to register for desktop diner because it is pre-registered. So we make sure we have enough room in the Zoom, but it'll be fun. Lots of breakouts with presenters, lots of activities and fun connection opportunities. So we'll see you.
Where's the link to sign up for Diner? Where is that
Just
one?
go to the connections-experiment.com/rootstech. Go to that page and you can link to all of the events from that
Everything's
page.
there. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, we'll see you guys there.
Bye. Thanks for
Bye.
joining us.